It's been a summer packed with blockbuster hits. Tonight it's pro football's turn on center stage as the NFL season is ready for a launch.
Houston, you're clear for liftoff.
We begin with the Houston Texans, the NFL's newest cast, set for the spotlight with an impressive leading man. David Carr was the first player selected in this spring's draft. Tonight, he and the Texans make their debut against one of the pillars of the pro football establishment. The New York Giants begin their 78th season, and their rich legacy grew even more last year when Michael Strahan broke the single-season sack record. Tonight, the big hits keep on coming as these two teams share top billing with a Hall of Fame class of 2002. Dave Casper and John Stallworth, two guys who handled everything thrown their way. Jim Kelly, who directed an out-of-this-world aerial assault. A premier defender who always trapped his prey, Dan Hampton. And George Allen, a man whose deeds turned losers into winners. So it's big stars, new faces, and legendary performers. And my new teammate in the Monday Night booth as ABC Sports presents the AFC-NFC Hall of Fame game.
Welcome to Canton, Ohio, home of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. About an hour's drive south of Cleveland, and you're looking at Fawcett Stadium, filled to capacity tonight as the Houston Texans break the seal against the New York Giants. Very pleasant temperatures, good weather, good crowd looking on, and I'm Al Michaels welcoming you to the 33rd season of Monday Night Football. Traditionally, we begin here, and this year it culminates with the Super Bowl in San Diego on January 26th. Well, the Oilers left Houston after the 1996 season. Bud Adams took the team to Tennessee, and Houston businessman Bob McNair had a dream. He dreamed about getting a franchise for his hometown, for Houston. He dreamed, and he had a lot of money to fulfill that dream, and tonight it comes to fruition as the Houston Texans are getting set for their first ever game. The Giants, of course, have been playing in the National Football League since 1925. They won the Super Bowl and shocked everybody, or got to the Super Bowl before losing to Baltimore 2 years ago. And then last year, they plummeted to 7-9. Well, in 1978 on Monday Night Football, Cincinnati met Oakland, and one John Madden was patrolling the sidelines. It's taken 24 years for the bus, and I don't mean Jerome Bettis, to finally get back to prime time, back to Monday night, back to the booth. John, welcome. Looking forward to a great season with you.
Al, thank you very much, and I'll tell you, I'm really looking forward to this. It's something that when I was coaching, I enjoyed coaching on Monday night. As a fan, I enjoyed watching Monday Night Football, and now being part of it, this is really exciting. You know, as you just said, you start here at the Hall of Fame, and we're going to end up in the Super Bowl. That's a pretty good ride.
And a little bit of history, and I know you went to Houston last week. What do you think of the expansion Texans?
I was impressed with the Texans. I think that they're going to probably be the best expansion team we've ever seen. Now, that doesn't mean that they're going to win 10 or 12 games, but Dom Capers has done this before. He's been at it 2 years. Talking to him the other day, he said, we've seen everything else. He said, I just want to see these guys play a game. So that's what we want to get out of this one. And, of course, the guy that he really wants to see is David Carr. I mean, he was the #1 player taken in the draft, their quarterback, their future. And he's passed every test. I mean, every time you see him, everything he's done, he's been very, very impressive.
And we're going to see Carr play at least the first half tonight, maybe into the third quarter. As far as the Giants are concerned, people felt they came back to earth last year, 7-9, and because they didn't do very much in the offseason, they won't be very good this year. What do you think?
Well, they didn't do much in the offseason, and I think it's really going to hurt them in their offensive line. But Jim Fossil said that's what he wants to use this preseason for, is to get an offensive line. I like his other offensive players. Jeremy Shockey, I think, is going to be a great tight end. And the big thing that they want to do, and I think can really improve this team, is work on special teams.
So it's the Giants and the brand new Houston Texans. Hall of Famers, past, present, and future, on display tonight.
Extra innings separate the winners from the losers. The pressure to perform gets greater the longer the game lasts. Now that I live and play in the city that never sleeps, I need a deodorant that really lasts.
Introducing Arm & Hammer Ultramax Deodorant Antiperspirant. Wetness protection like the leading guys. Plus the pure power of Arm & Hammer Baking Soda. Time release for long-lasting odor protection.
When your day goes into extra innings, it never hurts to have a little extra muscle.
New Arm & Hammer Ultramax. Extra muscle for the game of life.
So it's 4th and inches.
They got to go for it.
Drew, what are you doing here?
Haven't you heard him on Monday nights now?
Okay, just keep it down. We're working here.
Yeah, all right. Hey, can you hear somebody open this? My hands are kind of greasy.
Drew Carey, Who's Line, and Monday Night Football, starting Monday, September 9th on ABC.
New logo of the Houston Texans, and welcome back for a 3rd year patrolling the sidelines to Melissa Stark. Happy New Year in a sense, Melissa.
Hi, Al. Well, Dom Capers has been the Texans head coach for 18 months now. After all the hard work, all the preparation, you're finally playing in an NFL game. What's the main goal you'd like to accomplish tonight?
Well, Melissa, this is our first opportunity to see our team in game conditions, and you always want to see how they respond. With every step along the road, the tempo picks up. It'll be interesting to see how our team responds this evening.
Thanks. Good luck tonight.
Thank you.
The Texans featuring people like Jamie Sharper, the ex-Raven, Aaron Glenn, the ex-Jet, and the #1 draft choice, David Carr.
My baby loves me. She gets me feeling so fine. And she loves me. She makes me know that she's mine. And when she kisses, I feel the fire get hot. She never misses. She gives it all.
The cars from Chrysler. So distinct. They have an attraction all their own. Now from Chrysler, our 7-year or 70,000-mile powertrain limited warranty, because love is a commitment.
ABC Sports welcomes you to the following presentation of the National Football League.
The Texans against the Giants at Fawcett Stadium, where they had a severe thunderstorm warning in the area about 4 or 5 hours ago, but it's cleared up. It's a beautiful night, and the crowd settling in with the temperature around 80 degrees. Jim Kelly was inducted, and there is Dan Hampton, both going into the Hall of Fame in ceremonies on Saturday, and we'll take a look at some highlights from that ceremony at halftime tonight.
That 1985 Bear defense, Dan Hampton was such a big part of that. I think that was the best defense that I've ever seen.
Buddy Ryan, the defensive coordinator, the 46th defense, is Owen Potchman, who was picked up on waivers from New England and takes over for the departed Morton Anderson to kick off. Jabbar Gaffney, a rookie from Florida, who will try to work his way into the starting lineup as a wide receiver before this season is done, is back to receive. The Texans with a blend of veterans, culled from the expansion draft, some free agents, and a pretty good rookie crop, of course, highlighted by the #1 pick, David Carr. Dom Capers, and he knows what it's like to play a first game in Canton, Ohio, because that is where the Carolina Panthers began their existence against Jacksonville in 1995. So here we go. First ever preseason game for the Texans. Good kick by Potchman, fielded at the goal line by Jabbar Gaffney. And Gaffney gets taken down up at the 15-yard line, but his knee did not go down. Stays on his feet and gets all the way out past the 40. Looked like he would go down. No whistle blew. Kept his balance, stayed on his feet, and turns what would have been a minimal run back into a good one.
That's one of the things sometimes as a coach you like to see that, because it's something you can teach. You know, that don't think a guy's down. You have to get him down, listen for the whistle, and you play until he goes down. You see, his knee is down, but he's not touched. You see, so that's the thing that the Giants are going to work on, I'll guarantee you, this next week on special teams.
Alert call by the official as well as Carr takes over up at the 35-yard line. 1st and 10. The #1 draft choice out of Fresno State. And he starts with a long count, and he gives the ball to James Allen, the ex-Bear, and he's taken down behind the line of scrimmage by Michael Strahan. So David Carr picked by the Texans, and in fact he moved there, and they had the contract in place even before the draft took place, and you're allowed to do that when you know you have the #1 choice. He spent 5 years at Fresno State, 2 on the bench, then he redshirted in what would have been his junior season, and then 2 more. And his numbers for the Bulldogs, tremendous. 2nd and 13 at the 32-yard line. And a draw, and it's James Allen. So they start by going backwards on the first 2 plays. Cornelius Griffin made the stop. Allen and Gerard Baxter, the rookie out of New Mexico, the running backs. Jermaine Lewis and Corey Bradford are the wideouts. And Rod Rutledge, the expatriate, is the tight end. Then up front, Pitts, Graham, McKinney, Weary, and Herndon get the start. The big guy, Tony Pizzelli, the #1 pick in the expansion draft, the All-Pro from Jacksonville, still recovering from off-season surgeries.
And the guy that's going to start at that right tackle, Ryan Young, is also not dressed tonight.
So both teams with very makeshift offensive lines. As Carr's first pass as a pro, at least in preseason, is to Allen, and James Allen finds a little bit of room and gets up to the 40-yard line, but well shy of the first down.
Yeah, one thing they tried to run into that first down was a blitz. Anytime you play a rookie quarterback, he's going to get blitzed on 1st and 2nd down, and then you want to get him in these 3rd and long, and of course, you know, the screen is going to be there. Now they're going to be able to get some yards, but not a first down.
Came up 4 shy, and Aaron Langley will punt for the Texans, one of 3 punters vying for the position, and that will not help his cause at all. The wind picking up and all of that, but it's a wobbly duck that goes out of bounds at the 32-yard line. And now Kerry Collins, brand new contract extension, ready to begin his 4th season as a New York Giant. Guided them to the Super Bowl 2 years ago. Barber starts at running back. Toomer and Hilliard are outside. We'll keep our eye, of course, on Shockey, their #1 draft choice. Dan Campbell is the blocking tight end. And then Pettigrew, Soybert, Bober, Hopkins, and Rosenthal. And John talked about the line and the problems they have up front. And they can't even begin to sort them out tonight. They don't have Dusty Ziegler, their center, the most experienced of the linemen, as Barber takes it up to the 38-yard line. Now the Texans, and it's a Dom Capers team, so that tells you one thing. They'll play a 3-4. Issa, Deloach, and Seth Payne are the 3 guys up front. And then the linebackers, Wong is the ex-Viking, so is Foreman, Sharper the ex-Raven, and Jeff Posey was with the 49ers. And then Glenn and Coleman, 2 former Jets, with Stevens and Williams, another former Jet, in the secondary. 2nd down and 6 from the 38-yard line. Collins gets it away, and that is Jeremy Shockey, who makes the grab, and he's only been to camp a few days, and makes the catch, taking it to the 50-yard line.
Yeah, I was talking to Jeremy Shockey last night, and he was trying to talk Sean Plumlee into letting him get the first play of the game be a deep pass, and he said, no, not the first play. We're going to let you run an option route the second play. So that was an option. If the linebacker's inside, you go to the out. If the linebacker's outside, you go inside.
Shockey off the squad of the national champion Hurricanes as Collins throws wide open. Making the catch is Ike Hilliard, and that's a 19-yard pickup to the 31-yard line. So at least at the outset, John, the Texans do look like the expansion team, and the Giants look like the tried and true team.
You know, Ike Hilliard is a much bigger guy. He weighs 210 pounds, and I was just watching him last night, and you know, he runs all those inside routes anyway, and he runs them very well. But I think that added weight, that extra 10 or 15 pounds, is really going to help him when he goes to the inside. Of course, it's not going to help that toe injury that he has.
Still nursing it. First down, fake toss. Collins chased, throws on the run, and at the 20-yard line, it is intercepted by Aaron Glenn. And now they're going to wave it off and say that Glenn was actually out of bounds.
Yeah, that official came up and he patted his hand on the line, saying that Aaron Glenn's foot was on the line. He's a heck of a corner. You know, you talk about an expansion team, and you usually don't get players like an Aaron Glenn from the Jets, who is a heck of a corner. I don't know. I guess he You know, his feet are inbound, his knees were inbound.
Well, you can challenge, but it's too late to do that now. 2nd down and 10. Here is Barber, and Tiki takes it to the 28-yard line. Plenty of fuel for the newspapers, of course, John, during the month of July, and even before that. Barber gets into it with Strahan, and Shockey gets into a fight with Short. Makes for wonderful headlines.
Well, it does, and those are things that, you know, that a team, once they get into training camp and they start playing, they don't even think about that. I'm sure that, you know, that Michael Strahan and Tiki Barber probably aren't going to go out socially, you know, and be best of friends, but once you start playing and you're a team, those things don't mean a heck of a lot.
3rd down and 7 at the 28-yard line.
Watch the crack. Go downfield. Get downfield, boost.
Giants on their opening drive. There's a marker, and that pass is incomplete as Amani Toomer gets wrapped up. But the first penalty of the game, Tony Correnti is the referee tonight. He'll tell us about it.
I think it's going to be holding on Aaron Glenn. They put Jeremy Shockey out there as a wide receiver.
Offside. Defense, number 52. 5-yard penalty remains. 3rd down.
52 is Kylie Wong, and he's been a linebacker, and he's been a middle linebacker with the Minnesota Vikings. In this 3-man line with Dom Capers here, they moved him as an outside linebacker on the left side, wanting him to be a pass rusher from that side. You know, but I did see Aaron Glenn was holding Shockey on that play.
3rd down and 2 from the 23-yard line, and here's Barber with a big hole through the middle, picks up the 1st down, and gets rolled down finally at the 12-yard line by Matt Stevens.
You know, you just have to keep Tiki Barber in there because he's your explosive guy. I mean, you know, if there's one guy in this Giant team that can make a play, now watch this, they're just going to take off here. Good, see, they have good control of that line right there. Center makes a good block, and Tiki Barber gets in and out of that hole so quickly that it was just a blur as he went through there.
We won't see much of Barber tonight. This might be the only series we're going to see a lot of Ron Dayne. Barber trying to make the most of his limited playing time, takes it to the 10-yard line, where he's tackled by Jeff Posey.
I think that's one of the things that Jim Fossil knows. He knows what Tiki Barber can do, and he wants a fresh Tiki Barber because he's the one guy that can light you up. But he'd like to see Ron Dayne, you know, play more, and not only in this game, but in the entire preseason, and start to get in a rhythm.
And along the way, he needs to pick a 3rd running back, whether it's Damon Washington or Sean Bennett. We'll see both of them tonight as Barber knifes his way inside the 10, taken down at the 6 by Jamie Sharper.
You know, this guy is playing left guard. This Rich Soyboard isn't a bad player. You know, and he's been controlling his guy there at the line of scrimmage, and that's where they've been running. You know, you always worry about it. Watch Soyboard. Here's right here, and I think he's going to be a good guard anyway. You know, I mean, he starts off and he gets a good push, and you can see that Tiki Barber started to the left, and then he knew that he had that push where Soybert was.
He and Ziegler would figure to be the keys on 3rd and 5, and the catch is made by Barber, who can't get in, but he does get the 1st down.
This is kind of all about Kerry Collins and Tiki Barber this drive, isn't it?
And as we say, neither figures to play very much tonight because we're going to see a lot of Jesse Palmer as he tries to win the number 2 job. And for Collins, this could be the end of the night for him.
Well, you know, Sean Payton, the offensive coordinator of the Giants, he had everything scripted, and I was talking to him last night, and he not only has the first 15 for the first group, but he has the 2nd group scripted and the 3rd group scripted.
Barber to the outside and walks in for the touchdown.
Did you see that? That could have been an off-tackle play. Rich Soybert, his left guard, started to pull, and then he went inside, and Tiki Barber just dipped in there a little, and then boom, just took it right to the outside. But Soybert is right here. He's pulling here, and you can see Tiki Barber. He just runs in there. He gets a little block right there and sees that there's no containment on that side, so he just runs it right in.
Now Potchman for the point after. And the Giants would love to save that drive for a month from tonight when it counts against the 49ers in the NFL opener this year on a Thursday night. They go down the field 66 yards in 10 plays and make it look pretty easy. Barber for 6.
ABC's Monday Night Football is being brought to you by Budweiser, delivering beer at its best with a crisp, clean, and refreshing taste known only to the king of beers. By AT&T. Welcome to M-Life, AT&T Wireless, and Chrysler. Drive equals love. That giant drive equaled a lot of love on their sideline.
A lot of love for Tiki Barber.
Collins and Barber guiding him down the field. Potchman kicks off, and this is Jabbar Gaffney dropping it, picking it back up at the 1. He got a good run back on the opening kickoff, and the rookie from Florida takes it back out to the 25, where he's tackled by Quincy Monk. So the Texans will begin their second drive there with 8:31 to go in the opening quarter, and the Giants up 7-0. Saturday here on ABC Sports, the Weetabix Women's British Open. The defending champion is Sari Pak. The field includes Annika Sorenstam, Julie Inkster, and Kari Webb. Coverage starts at 1:30 Eastern, 3 Pacific on ABC Sports Championship Television this Saturday. From the 25-yard line now, David Carr and the Houston Texans. Second drive of the night. And this is the former Chicago Bear, James Allen, up to the 26.
Watch this, Al. As David Carr walks over to the sideline, he sees Jim Kelly standing there. And Jim Kelly is going to give him a word. Watch here. Jim Kelly says, "This is what it's all about." And then continues to go on and sign his autograph. But you know, this has to be so big for a guy like David Carr. His first pro game, and you know, in Canton, the Hall of Fame, all these great players here watching you, national television.
And he has an appreciation for it on 2nd down and 9. Everybody covered. He's able to stay in bounds, and he's actually able to pick up a couple. He was chased by Michael Strahan.
Yeah. See, on that, what he'll learn there is once you're outside the tackle box, you can throw the ball away. So instead of taking a loss, if he's not going to get back to the original line of scrimmage, when he's right here, you see Strahan is up there, makes him bring the ball down. Now, if he's right here, he's probably better off just throwing the ball away to get it back to the original line of scrimmage.
Carr, born in Bakersfield, California, grew up in California, elected to stay at home in effect by going to Fresno State.
Married, very comfortable in this shotgun.
And this is his first time in the gun tonight on 3rd down and 6. He has to throw off his back foot. Coming back to make the catch is Jermaine Lewis, the Baltimore Raven, who will be their kick returner, both kickoffs and punts during the regular season, and trying to win a job as, if he can, a starting wideout.
And he was under pressure on that one too. But watch Lewis out here. He's going to come out here, and he's right here, and he's going to run it in. You see, he starts to the inside, then goes back to the outside, and Carr throws it and makes him come back to that a little. You don't always throw it where he is. You throw it where he's going and bring him back.
First down from the 47. Back to the ground they go. James Allen, a couple of years ago, ran for over 1,000 yards as a Bear and takes it to the 34, and he was expendable because of the emergence of Anthony Thomas in Chicago, and Capers picks him up.
Watch a good block by his left guard. Watch Domingo Graham here. He's going to pull out and lead. And that's the thing that you have to have. You see number 70 right there? He makes that block right there. Boom. And then Allen just breaks off that, breaks a tackle right there, makes a little move, and ends up with a good run.
Let it be duly noted, the first Monday Night Boom.
Yeah. And it all started with a big old guard named Domingo Graham.
At the 34-yard line on 1st down. Gone. Catch is made. That's Jermaine Lewis again at the 30-yard line. Gain of 4, covered by Will Allen.
There's old D. Graham. He played for the San Diego Chargers, and you know, these offensive linemen, I mean, it used to be something to be 300 pounds. Now you look at these guys, and I was watching them last night in practice, and they're you know 310, 315, 320, but they're not big old fat guys. I mean, they're like the guys. They look like the guys that used to weigh 260.
Now when the guy comes in under 300, you do a double take when you look at the roster. Second down and 5 from the 29-yard line. Carr, is that designed? That's several long counts tonight.
Yeah,
False start. Offense, number 69.
You know what
5-yard
happened?
penalty remains. Second down.
That's Chester Pitts, who's a rookie out of San Diego State. But you know what happens is you get a rookie quarterback, and you know the defense is going to blitz him. And they just scrimmaged Dallas the other night, and Dallas blitzed the heck out of him. So one of the things, as Dom Capers was said, when we went against that, we didn't have any audibles. So they have some audibles tonight. And the other thing to slow down a blitz, to slow down a pass rush, is to change up your snap count.
388.
Second down and 10 at the 34-yard line. Carr, short drop, gone. And then the pass is thrown out of bounds. Corey Bradford, the former Packer, covered by Allen and Stoudemire. Let's take a look at that Giant defense before they retire for the night. Strahan, Griffin, Hamilton, and Kenny Holmes all coming back from last year. Short, Barrow, and Lewis are the New York linebackers. And in the secondary, Allen and Peterson with Williams and Stoudemire. Jason Sehorn, still recovering from his leg surgery, is here tonight. Johnny Lynn is the new defensive coordinator. Jason, however, is not in uniform, and there he is in civvies. And Johnny Lynn taking over for the departed John Fox, now the head coach at Carolina. Third and 10. It's fired into the arms of William Peterson at the 15-yard line, and then he brings it back to the 40 before he loses the ball, but the play is whistled dead before the fumble.
Yeah, and that was David Carr's first look at 6 defensive backs. We were looking at Johnny Lynn, and as we were looking at him, he substituted, put in 6 defensive backs. He has a double right here, but you see what happened. The receiver fell down. And that's one of the things you always worry about when you're throwing on timing. If the receiver falls down, you're dead.
And as you just saw on Monday, the 19th of August, 2 weeks from tonight, the 49ers, who played in Japan the other night, and the Denver Broncos in Denver. Ron Dane is in the game, and so is Jesse Palmer on the Giants' second drive. And this is the Heisman Trophy winner from Wisconsin a couple of years back, picking up 2 to the 42-yard line. Let's go back to the pick here, John.
And you start here. You're going to see Jabbar Gaffney's right here, and he runs. And as he starts to make his cut, he's going to fall down. And then the defensive back is right here, and you're going to see Carr, who has to be able to bring that ball down. See, he's looking all the way.
Third and 10. It's fired into the arms. That wasn't me. That was tape.
I was saying he's looking all the way, and then when his receiver falls down, the only guy there is the defensive back.
Second and 9. It's underneath, and it's Ron Dane taking it to the 46-yard line. Little stray audio. You know I'd never talk over any of your replays. Tiki's on the bench. He and Collins are done for the night. We mentioned they would play very sparingly, but very effectively. Barber carried 6 times for 24 yards, caught a pass, and Collins was 3 out of 4 for 37.
Tiki looked fresh, too, didn't he? He looked like he was fresh and explosive. And if you have 5 preseason games and I'm Jim Fossil, I want to keep Tiki Barber that way.
And they're going to have 6 games over a course of 32 days, counting the regular season opener. Now, on an end around, this is Darryl Jones. He is a rookie from Miami, and he's taken down at the 48-yard line. So they didn't trick the Texans on that play. And let's check in with Melissa.
Well, Al, John Stallworth is the 9th player from the Steelers' 4 Super Bowl winning teams to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. When you look back over your entire career, is there one memory that you can pick out that stands above the rest?
Listen, not one, I think several, but the thing that stands out for me, it's the relationships that we formed in Pittsburgh. Some great relationships that are true and strong to this day, and those are the things I look back on with fond memories.
You finished your playing career in 1987, and you've waited a long time for this. Was there any part of you that was concerned that it may never happen?
You know, the first 2 years I made the list, the finalist list, I was a little bit concerned. Years after that, I chose not to think about it a whole lot, and I thought when it happened, I would be overjoyed about that, but I wasn't going to ride that emotional roller coaster over the years until it happened.
Well, congratulations, it finally did happen.
Thank you very much.
Back to you, Al.
Yeah, John Stallworth and Kylie Wong, the reason for the delay here. The
ex-Viking linebacker, expected to play such a significant part for Dom Capers' group this year, has to be helped off the field.
Yeah, and they were counting on Kylie Wong. They are counting on Kylie Wong to not only be a linebacker for him, but a big pass rusher.
Greg Jones takes his spot. Here is Dane, and Dane takes it to the 44-yard line.
You know, it's interesting. I'm talking to Sean Payton and Jim Fossil last night. They said that they want to run Ron Dane more, but they want to run him without a lead back. He said that he's really not good with a lead back. Sometimes that lead just gets in the way, so they want him just to be a one-man back, you know, and go 2 tight ends, but not have another back in front of him. You see the way he is right now, just the single back and no back in front of him that'll get in his way when they're leading.
Third down and 7 from the 45-yard line. Play fake. Palmer, who played his college ball for Steve Spurrier, throws and hits Amani Toomer, and he is brought down at the 7-yard line. DeMarcus Fagans, a rookie from Kansas State, was covering on the play, and it's a 38-yard gain.
And Fagans looked like a rookie all the way on that one, didn't he? We're going to see it right up here. And you see Toomer just gives a little stop and go, and Fagans goes for the stop. That's one thing, you know, any time you get a rookie defensive back, one of the things you always want to do is that double move thing to him.
Works there. Palmer sets up, and he tries to shovel it to Ron Dane. That's incomplete. Palmer, as I said, played for Spurrier in that quarterback shuttle system at Gainesville. Actually grew up in Canada. As you look at Kylie Wong getting the attention on the sideline, but Jesse's in a position, John, to supplant Jason Garrett as the backup to Collins.
And that's what they want to find out in this preseason. Right now they're putting him as the second quarterback. That doesn't mean that he is. During this preseason, he has to earn the right to be the second quarterback.
Now Ron Dane on 2nd and goal, and Dane tentatively takes it to the 5.
And that was one of the things that they're trying to stay away with Dane. We just talked about that. Dan Campbell in there as a lead, and that, you know, Dane is a better pick-a-hole runner and not as good with the lead. They let him run without the lead, and in that one, and sometimes when you get closer to the goal line, you want that extra or lead blocker in there.
Now they spread him out on 3rd down and goal from the 5-yard line. Waning moments of the first quarter. Palmer protected well and then throws, and it's incomplete in the end zone, intended for Ron Dixon. A couple of giant receivers in the same area.
And one thing, you see Steve Spurrier last night, they were over there in Japan, or 2 nights ago, and I said, what are you going to do tonight? He says, oh, we're just going to go out and pitch it. And he pitched it all night. They're good. Those Redskins are going to be interesting.
Fun to watch. They're on our 2nd regular season Monday night game against Philadelphia in September, as Owen Potchman gets ready to kick a 23-yard field goal. They had to let Morton Anderson go because of the salary cap restraint, so it's Potchman's job to win, and he has an extra point and a field goal in the first quarter tonight. 36 ticks left in the opening quarter, and the Giants lead the Texans 10-0. Well, Big John is with us. I think my favorite sign tonight was Madden Knows Canton. And John, you've been here. You're almost in residence.
Yeah, I've been here since Thursday. I was here for the induction of Dave Casper, and they started with dinner Thursday night and breakfast Friday morning and lunch Friday afternoon and dinner Friday night and parade Saturday. And it's been a heck of a weekend. I'll tell you, they know how to do it here in Canton.
They do. Jonathan Wells, Ohio State rookie, and he's up past the 30 to the 34-yard line. There's a guy who, before the season is done, could be their starting running back. Rookie from down the road in Columbus. 30 seconds left in the opening period.
Back in Canton, Melissa Stark, I have an injury update on Texans linebacker Kylie Wong. He has a sprained left ankle. The trainers just taped it up. He's testing it out, but his return is questionable, Al.
All right, so Kylie Wong hurt in the first quarter of the Texans opening game. There's Michael Strahan, probably done for the night, as the Giants' second unit comes in, and that is Brandon Short. who gets him down behind the line of scrimmage. James Allen trying to go wide and tackled for a loss of about 5.
Yeah, they're having trouble with that first down run. And, you know, during the regular season, when you do that, you'd go to some first down pass, some play pass, those types of things.
And so the quarter winds down. Rapidly paced quarter. Very few flags, and that's unusual for a preseason game. And at the end of one, the Giants lead the Texans 10-0. And Monday Night Football returns after this message and a word from our ABC stations. You're watching ABC Sports Championship Television. And back we come to Canton as we start the second quarter. 2nd down and 18 for the Houston Texans in their inaugural game from the 26-yard line. David Carr, the #1 draft choice, under pressure in the backfield, dumps it off, and then James Allen can't handle it. And it will be 3rd down and 18. And there's a man watching his dream come to fruition. Bob McNair was born in Tampa, Florida, but moved to Houston in 1960. Hugely successful businessman. Has had a lot of thoroughbred horses, and I saw him before the game, John, and I said, how about some of you win the Super Bowl and the Kentucky Derby? He says, bless you, son.
No, he's a heck of a guy. And the thing that I like about him is he's brought a team to Houston, and then he's given them first-class facilities. I mean, that stadium down there and the locker room and the practice facilities, that is state-of-the-art.
3rd and 18. And McNair's pass, Carr's pass to Gaffney is incomplete. And speaking of that stadium, John,
you know, here's the Astrodome right next to it, but look at that stadium, and it has a retractable roof on it, but they want to play with the roof open. And this is a locker biggest. That workout room is the biggest I've ever seen in my life. 10,000 square feet. And you put your big old line in those pools.
In the lap pools. There's a flag as the punt bounces at the 35-yard line, and backing up to the 25 is Darryl Jones, who played his college ball with Jeremy Shockey at Miami. He loses the ball, and the Giants are able to cover it up at the 32. But again, there's a flag back at the line of scrimmage. Get Correni's call from the outset, and we'll start with illegal procedure against the Texans.
You know, that's the look that Dom Capers has, is the look that you have before you know what the penalty was, but you know that it's on you. That look there,
right,
where the mouth is kind of open and like you're trying to hear through your mouth.
Then all you can do is look for another penalty flag and hope they're offsetting.
No, but all coaches have that same look. It's like coaching 101. You get that look while you're waiting for this.
Illegal formation. Offense number 82. The penalty is declined. 1st down.
So the Giants recover the fumble and take over at the 30-yard line. Matt Stevens is the guy who dislodges the football.
Watch
here.
Matt Stevens here, number 26. I mean, that's helmet to helmet, shoulder pad to shoulder pad, chest to chest. That knocked a whole lot of stuff loose on that play. I like Matt Stevens. I remember him when he was with the Patriots last year.
Now this is Dane, who picks up a couple. Do you think Dane has turned out to be the kind of runner that the Giants expected when they drafted him out of Wisconsin, John?
Yeah, you know, probably. You know, I mean, if Ron Dane makes a nice run, it's 4 or 5 yards, I mean, and that's the problem with it, because. And that's okay if you had a lot of explosive, fast players, but they never had an explosive tight end until now. They really didn't have explosive wide receivers. The only explosion they had was Tiki Barber, and Ron Dane doesn't go with that.
2nd and 8. Dane. And Dane that time knifes his way to the outside and is taken out of bounds after he picks up a 1st down. I've heard you say in the past, if you have 2 quarterbacks, you really have none. What about with running backs with 1 and 1-8? Does that work?
I don't think it works. I think that's one of the things that fouled up Tampa Bay in their offense, and I think that this is a team that you can put a Ron Dane in, but you don't want to take Tiki Barber out, and then you try and play them both at the same time, and that doesn't work, and that's the dilemma of having 2 running backs.
Tampa doesn't have that dilemma anymore.
No, but that, because then you always try and get him touches. I mean, you have to get so many touches. Tiki, you have to get so many touches today, and that just fouls up your offense.
Prior to the snap, false start. Offense, number 86. 5-yard penalty remains, first down.
Ron Dixon, and there is Sean Payton. It's funny how a guy goes to the Super Bowl as an assistant coach, and he becomes a hot young guy, and look out, in the future he'll be a head coach, and then you have a year like last year, and Sean has to get it back to where it was in 2000.
Right, and he is a bright young guy, and his day is going to come.
First and 15. Here's Palmer improvising and steps out of bounds up at the 39-yard line. Giants last season coming off their NFC Championship year, and then the loss in the Super Bowl. 7-9 their record, 0-5 against teams that wound up in the playoffs. Lost 4 games when they led in the fourth quarter, and even though, John, they were 9th in yards gained, 21st in points scored, so a very inefficient offense.
Yeah, that was the thing. They'd move the ball, they'd get down there, and then they'd foul up in the red zone. Kerry Collins had all those fumbles, and those are things that they're really working on in training camp. Whoops.
2nd and 11, and
that was a little early.
Yeah.
That was one of those timing deals that didn't work out. Yeah, I was really impressed with Jeremy Shockey, though. I met him last night and talked to him, and Dave Casper is inducted here into the Hall of Fame, and Jeremy Shockey looks just like Dave Casper and plays just like Dave. Now, I don't know if he's going to be a blocker like Casper, but he's the same type of guy, the same attitude, runs patterns the same way, and he is going to be a big plus for this Giant offense.
Number 1 draft choice, 3rd down and 11, as Palmer gets out of the grasp and then throws, and the pass is incomplete, intended for Shockey, but he got out of the grasp, I believe, of Corey Sears, who had him wrapped up for an apparent sack, and he was able to escape.
As Sears did, he's going to come from this backside, and you see him right there, and he has him. He has him zeroed in, and he just, that's when, Terry Bradshaw used to do that very well. That as you would hit him, he would spin, and then as he spins right out of the tackle.
Rodney Williams to punt. Avion Black is back to receive. Black from the 12-yard line. Gets some blocking. One man to beat. And he can't beat him, as it's Williams, the punter, who saves a touchdown. So Rodney Williams sent it down to the 12-yard line. Meanwhile, Leamon Evans of the Texans is hurt on the play as they tend to him. But for the moment, Williams at least saves the touchdown, 10-0. And that's Leamon Evans, and they're still working on him. Evans picked up recently, defensive back who was playing here on special teams. Played his college ball at Clemson, and most recently was with the Skins.
He's right here, and he's going to run into Sean Bennett right here. He just kind of puts his head and shoulders right into Bennett and goes right down. Watch him. You see the collision right there. And then Leamon Evans just goes down. Here it is right here. Wasn't a real collision with Sean Bennett. I think it was, he led with his head and shoulders. And here's the punt return. This is one of the areas where as an expansion team that you can become good quickly, and that's on special teams. And you get a guy like Jermaine Lewis, who's going to be a heck of a punt returner, and other young players. And this is an area that I think, if you say, how do you build a team, this is a way that you build it. You start with good special teams. It was Bruce Reed. He's the Giants defensive special teams coach, who you don't like to see that happen.
He's been entrusted with turning around what was a poor unit last year, and he just watched a 71-yard punt return. Well, they have to
continue to tend to Evans as the Texans gather. And they continue to work on Leamon Evans. And it's one of those things, it looks terrible, and you just hope and pray that you wake up tomorrow and in the paper it says it's nothing but a stinger. That's all we can hope for at this point, pending anything else we can find out.
And that's what, you know, every player and every coach, you know, you go out there and you compete and you want to play hard and do your best and hit hard and all those things, but you don't want any injuries. You don't want to ever see this. And what Leamon Evans did on that play is if you look just before he made contact, he puts his head down. He's going to start right here. Now watch as he comes in to make, see where his head goes down right there? That's what it is. And he hit with his head down, and it was just the contact of his running into Sean Bennett. So here it is right there, and see the head right there go down. That's why they always say that, you know, to keep your head up, see what you hit.
And this has become an all too familiar sight, but at least, I mean, John, the medical attention in the last few years has been phenomenal. You wonder how in the world they, and you were there years ago when they dealt with this and they couldn't give him the attention that he gets right now in this particular situation on the field.
Well, it's so much better than it's ever been. I mean, they have the ambulance there, and they're going to take him right off the field now to the ambulance in the corner. They have x-ray facilities at every place. They have, you know, 4 or 5 doctors where we used to have 1 doctor. They have 5 or 6 trainers. And one thing about the NFL, they really do get the best medical attention.
So we'll get all of the information we can as quickly as possible on Leamon Evans. Melissa will find out what she can, and the Texans now are ready to resume at the 18-yard line after that run back by Avion Black. 71-yard run back after a 50-yard Williams punt. So before a stunned and hushed crowd right now at the 18-yard line, this is Carr to the end zone and bobbled and juggled by Jabbar Gaffney. The coverage pretty good on the play by Ralph Brown, third-year back out of Nebraska.
And it was a pretty good throw by David Carr there. I mean, that's the type of thing where you get your guy up there in the end zone, and either he's going to get the ball or no one's going to get it, but you're not going to let it intercept you. Here's Gaffney right here, and you're going to see him run the route a little out and then up, and then you try and throw that thing to the second pylon. David Carr threw that just a little short, but I like the way he looked off. He looked to the middle, then came back to the right.
2nd and 10 now from the 18-yard line. And Allen, he has not gotten on track tonight. He's carried 6 times for 7 yards. James Allen right now at least appears to be their opening night starter, but before it's all said and done, they're looking for Jonathan Wells, their 4th-round draft choice out of Ohio State, to assume that role.
And Michael Jenkins is also another possibility there. One thing that Dom Capers told us is that he has David Carr scheduled to play 30 plays. It's not a first quarter, second quarter, but it's a 30-play thing.
Right now, this is his 16th play, so he's halfway there. Early in the second quarter, as Carr flings it to the outside, and he's right on the money to Tony Simmons, but just a little shy of the first down marker.
That was a heck of a throw. I mean, that when he came back, and that's one of the toughest things that you have to throw. You know, we always think it's an up, it's a post, and so on, but it's that out to the sideline. And one thing about David Carr, he does have a strong arm. You see how he holds the ball up now, holds the ball up, looks to the left, steps in, and he really put something on that one. It was saying he just hits his guy perfectly there. I mean, that was, you could have used one more step to get that first down.
They're going to measure. He appears to be a little shy. They have to bring the chains in from across the field.
Could have taken a half a step to get that first down.
Just a few links. It's preseason. Why not?
Yeah, I think he wants David Carr in there. He wants David Carr in as many situations as he can get him in. And this is one. You like to get that, that red zone we talk about inside the 20. You want to get some goal line, and to do that, you have to pick up a first down here.
Would you agree in the regular season, if this were for real tonight, you bring in the field goal unit?
You kick a field goal, yeah, you have to, and then you hope that your receiver, in that case Tony Simmons, that knows where that first down marker is and catches the ball and somehow it doesn't leave you with 4th and inches. And I think the more that a quarterback and receivers work together, they don't leave 4th and inches for the coach to have to die with.
Carr, quick count this time, and Allen is able to burrow his way for a first down. Behind Steve McKinney and Fred Weary up front.
This Dom Capers is so organized. We talked about how he says he wants David Carr to play 30 plays in this game, but he has him scheduled all the way through the preseason. He showed me his chart last night, and he has David Carr playing before the regular season opener 160 plays.
So that would be, on average, a little bit more than 30 per game. Fred Weary was the first to jump.
Now there's a good-looking player, that Fred Weary.
Offense, number 61. 5-yard penalty remains. First down.
He's one of those 310-pound guys that I always liked in an offensive lineman that was a wrestler. He was a state wrestling champion in Alabama, and for 3 years. And what that gives these guys is, and they're so massive anyway. He's over 300 pounds, but they have great leverage. They know how to bend their knees. They're always in a football position.
And if he can't make it here, he goes to Vince McMahon.
He can make it here. I would take him.
1st and 10 from the 12-yard line, and Allen picks up 1. Tackled by Wesley Mallard. Now, where else would Wesley Mallard, John, have gone to school but Oregon?
That's right. Watch Weary right here. He is so big and strong. When he gets someone, he's going to get him right there, and they try and make that move, and he just puts all 310 right on top of it.
2nd and goal. Ten 0. The Giants on top. 9.5 to go. Michael Strahan played in the first series, and he'll take the rest of the night off. Carr throws. That's caught at the 5-yard line. Wrapped up there is Jabbar Gaffney, and taken down at the 5. Ralph Brown on the coverage.
One thing you have to like about Carr is he can zip it. That's the thing you always want to know. Does he have footwork? Does he have this? But you have to start off, does he have an arm, and then does he have accuracy, and then does he have timing, and then does he have feet, and everything that you look for in a quarterback that I've seen so far, and I know it's probably a little too early to say it, but everything that you look for in a quarterback, I think David Carr has.
They spotted him very early and knew months ago, a couple of months before the draft, in fact, he was their guy. 3rd down and goal. Flings it over the middle into traffic, and that's incomplete. Trying to jam it into his new favorite receiver, Gaffney.
Yeah, Kiki worked right to jam it in there, jam it into Jabbar, and that one didn't work. And that's probably something that he could get away with at Fresno State. But you see the double coming right here, and there's no way that he's going to get away with that there. He threw it in there, and there was a defender on either side of Gaffney, and they both reacted to that one.
And now Chris Brown, who is thrilled like no other guy to have left Pittsburgh after his season in the new stadium last year, signs with the Texans. 22-yard field goal attempt is good. You know what's at the top of Brown's wish list? Close the roof at Reliant this year. But he has a new home and his first 3 points as a Texan.
Melissa Stark back in Canton, Ohio. We have an injury update on Texans safety Leamon Evans. Official word from the team, it's an apparent neck injury. He is conscious, but he doesn't have feeling in his arms or his legs. He has been transported to Altman Hospital here in Canton, Ohio, and we'll update you as soon as we get any more information.
All right, thank you, Melissa. Stay on top of that story and wish for the best as Ron Dixon downs that one in the end zone. Kickoff by Aaron Langley. Evans, and we've seen him on Monday night from time to time in the last few years. Washington Redskin out of Clemson. And a guy who, well, we can only hope and pray for him right now. And I know that Dom Capers was looking to either start him or clearly use him quite a lot in the nickel and dime, and he winds up here getting hurt on special teams. 1st and 10 from the 20-yard line as Palmer is under pressure and gets sacked back at the 10-yard line.
You know, you look at the advantages that this Texan team is going to have this year, and Al, I think one of them is the fact that they use a 3-man line, and you know, so they can always bring that extra rusher, and you don't know where he's going to come from, and it can be, you know, from the outside, it can be from the inside, it can be a linebacker, it can be a safety. Here, see, they have Posey coming from the outside, and we get a stunt there, and Posey just is the outside linebacker who takes an inside move.
Now here's Dane back to the 18. Vic Fangio is the defensive coordinator, and when you talk about the 3-4, John, well, Dom Capers, a disciple of that, worked under Bill Cowher in Pittsburgh. Steelers still use it, and I think Wade Phillips is going to bring it to Atlanta this year.
Yeah, and now that, you know, there's so few teams using it, when you play against it, you only get a couple days to practice on it, and they know so much more about it. I mean, you know, Dom Capers probably knows as much about the 3-man line and what you can do with it and off of it as anyone.
3rd down and 12 from the 18-yard line. Pressure on, flag down. Palmer gets hit as he throws, and the pass is incomplete. He was wrapped up that time by Posey coming around the corner.
Yeah, and that's the thing that they'll do. Posey came from that right defensive end. They went to a 3-man line on a nickel situation. Then their linebackers become ends. And Posey just went right around that tackle.
Offense number 78 was lined up in the backfield. The penalty is declined. 4th down.
What's Jeff Posey? He's going to be right here. See, and he lines up in a passing situation when they go nickel. He lines up as a defensive end. He just runs right around that tackle, and there was no feel. Jesse Palmer didn't feel him at all.
Now Rodney Williams. This one a low bouncing kick, and the Texans will let it bounce, and the Giants will cover it at about the 44-yard line. Houston will take it there with 7:14 remaining in the opening half, and the Giants on top by a touchdown. Monday Night Football is being brought to you by Bud Light. For the great taste that won't fill you up and never lets you down, make it a Bud Light. By Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. Get lost in a Reese's. And Ford, no boundaries.
This has been a heck of a celebration here, Ken. I'll tell you, these people, they have to get tired sometimes of waving their arms. They've been waving their arms to inductees and to parades and breakfasts and everything you can wave your arm.
Round the clock. Michael Jenkins is in at running back. Cedric Scott and Jimmy Herndon made contact.
Jimmy Herndon is the right tackle that's starting in the place of Ryan Young. The big tackle they got from the Jets that is going to be their starting right tackle.
Neutral zone infraction. Defense number 96. 5-yard penalty remains. 1st down.
Cedric Scott. That's one of the things, you know, when we met with the officials, they talked about things they were going to call this year was neutral zone infractions. They thought that defensive linemen were taking too much of the ball, and the neutral zone is the length of the football. And some of those nose tackles, some of those guys right up there over the center, have been getting awfully close to that football. And so they're going to really enforce that this year.
Into the DMZ. 1st and 5. Swinging to the outside, and this is Jenkins, and it's his first carry of the night. First-year player out of Arkansas, and that's a first down.
You know, one of the things Chris Palmer, the offensive coordinator, when they drafted David Carr, was talking about is he held the ball too low. Watch him on the left-hand side here at Fresno State. As he drops back, and you see where the ball is down here. Now, if we take a look at him tonight, watch how he has the ball up here. You see, when he drops back, the ball is up here compared to down there. And that's one of the big things that they've been working on with David Carr, and you can see that he has picked it up already. He said that he just got a little sloppy in college.
1st and 10 from the 40-yard line. Again, showing that great arm strength. The pass is incomplete, though. Gaffney had it for the moment, but never had possession.
The thing I like about David Carr is as this game goes on, he's getting more comfortable. You know, I didn't feel that he was real comfortable in that first quarter, but now he's very comfortable, and he's just standing back in that pocket and and zipping the ball in like that, and that's a perfect throw.
How are you doing? Are you getting more comfortable?
Yeah, I'm comfortable as heck.
Me too. 2nd and 10 at the 39. Jenkins out of the CFL, played for the Toronto Argonauts and led the league in rushing. Tackled by Grayson.
But I think that, what Dom Capers is doing with David Carr and putting him in there from day one, making him the starter, is the only way to do it. I mean, that you can say, do you bring him in? Do you have an experienced guy and let him play it back up for a while? And he said he did that, in his first one at Carolina with Kerry Collins. And he said after 4 or 5 games, he started him. He's going to start anyway. He's going to have a bumpy road somewhere, so you might as well start him right off the bat and let him have the bumpy road.
3rd and 9. And on a slant and making the catch is Gaffney. And that's a first down. Tackled by Ralph Brown. John, talking about quarterbacks who started in their first games and they were selected as the top pick in the draft. Look at Terry Bradshaw and look at the bottom 2 numbers there. 6 touchdowns, 24 interceptions in his first year. Elway actually had a pretty good Bronco team that went to the playoffs that year, but 7 TDs and 14 picks. And then Troy Aikman came out of UCLA as the Cowboys top pick in '89, and that team went 1-15. So it's a rough road.
Yeah, but those 3 guys, one of them is in the Hall of Fame, and the other 2 are going to be in the Hall of Fame. But as you said, they went through that rough road, they went through that rocky road, and then they come out the other end of it, and they won a bunch of Super Bowls.
And let's check in with Melissa again.
All right, Al. Well, Dave Casper's 52 career touchdown receptions are the most of any tight end in the Hall of Fame. Now, I know that you have many, many memories, but when you look at your career, what stands out the most?
Well, probably the first time I was in a meeting with John Madden, I was doodling the first day, and he thought I wasn't paying attention, and he got up after the meeting and started yelling at me. And I promised him I was paying attention. I responded and I told him what he talked about. So I knew it was going to be a long day if I didn't get the job done with John Madden.
Well, speaking of Madden, he was your presenter, and you credited him with making you a better player than you were ever willing to be. How did he do that?
He was a pain in the butt. I mean, every day when I thought I did pretty well, he just kind of ignored me, and it wasn't good enough, and he kind of held me back a little bit till I was ready. And even then, when I thought I was a pretty darn good player, he would still constantly expect me to do a little bit more, and it kind of makes me mad. And when I get mad, and I usually do a little better, he just constantly made me mad.
Thanks. Congratulations. John, any response to that?
Yeah, heck yes. He does better when he's mad. I'd like to make him mad right now. The other day, he didn't even know how to take a bow. He was standing up there, and I've never seen, when they bring him up and introduce him, Dave Casper, and instead of going like this, I mean, all the other guys fisting, hands up like this, he was going like this. He was putting his hands down. I said, that's not a move when you're introduced. You don't do that. So I had him, I swear, this is no kidding, I had him on Saturday morning working on a move to get your hands up. I mean, show some emotion with your hands above your shoulders.
So what happened?
Then he kept his hands above his shoulder. You never use that stupid move anymore, but he was doing that on Thursday and Friday when he was introduced.
So he's still a good student. This is Jenkins on 2nd and 16.
I'll tell you, he's a great student. I mean, Dave Casper was, one of the brightest players that I've ever known anywhere. And I think if you put them all in some room and tested them all, that he could very well be the top of that list. He graduated from Notre Dame with some of those Latin words after his name.
You hear that, Dave?
Yeah.
No, he had that look. It's like that coach's look, you know, where you don't know what's going on. You open your mouth like you're going to hear better. Like words are going to jump in your mouth and you know what it is.
We're going to see part of the induction ceremony. Casper and the 4 others who went in on Saturday. We'll see that at halftime. It's on 3rd and 13. Carr fires over the middle. Intended for Avion Black, and the pass is incomplete.
But can't you just feel David Carr getting more comfortable here? You know, that it's something that just the way he's carrying himself, and even when it's an incomplete pass and you know he has to go up, I mean, he stands there, he looks at it, he sees what he did wrong, what he could have done. He's getting great experience here tonight because they're moving the ball, they're getting some red zone, some stuff in there, and I know that he'd like to get a goal. Well, I know he'd like to get a touchdown. Of course he would. What am I talking about?
He right now is 7 out of 15, 75 yards, 1 interception. James Tuthill comes in to try the field goal. This is a 34-yard attempt, and that's no good. So Tuthill is trying to supplant Chris Brown. Brown would be the overwhelming favorite to win the job, and that obviously won't help Tuthill's cause. Back to Melissa.
All right, Al, well, Jim Kelly set a number of records during his football career, but you set another one this weekend. You obliterated the record for fan attendance, over 1,200 people. Why was it so important to you to have that many people here?
Well, everybody, I think, has to understand it. I grew up in Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh, which is only about a 2-hour drive. Buffalo's 3-hour drive, so I was able to make sure I got all my, high school football players here, the coaches, my midget football. But these are the people who made me get to where I'm at.
The only quarterback in NFL history to take a team to the Super Bowl 4 straight years, an amazing feat. But when you look back on all of your accomplishments, what stands out the most to you?
Well, the team effort, us being able to recover after each one of those. But to me, more important than just going to 4 Super Bowls, we went to the '88 championship game. We were one of the teams that we were in it 5 times, but we played against 5 different teams. To me, that's a big accomplishment. But we had so much help from so many people. But the bottom line is Marv Levy allowed me to call all my own plays. His job security was online, and a great, Ted Marchborough and of course Frank Reich. So. But I had fun. That's what it was all about.
Congratulations. It's great to see you here.
Thank you.
He had fun. So did we watching him as we come to the 2-minute warning. The Giants up by 7. Two minutes to go in the first half with the Giants on top 10-3. The first ever game for the Houston Texans. Michael Strahan, as is his custom, he's standing, and even though he hasn't played since early in the first quarter, he will not sit down. 2nd and 15 from the 19-yard line. Sean Bennett tackled to the 20. Another man who won't sit down because he travels around the world. He was in Osaka on Saturday night as the commissioner, Paul Tagliabue. Looked like a great scene over in Osaka the other night, Commissioner.
It was a very good scene and good for the development of our game in Japan, where they play a lot of college football, and we're getting them interested in the NFL.
Yeah, well, you weren't here on Saturday, but they made a great move, which I know you know about, moving the ceremony from just off I-77 in the parking lot of the Hall of Fame and into the stadium.
Well, it created a big crowd. It created a game day type atmosphere, and it's what those Hall of Famers deserved.
And especially with Jim Kelly in the mix, too.
Well, Kelly was the king. I think someone dubbed him the king today.
Well, I went to the parade. I was in the parade, and there was well over 100,000 people there. And I swear that half of them were wearing blue number 12 jerseys for Jim Kelly.
He had that kind of power over his teammates and the opposition and the fans in Buffalo, so it was great to see.
What did you talk to these guys about? I know that before the game you went down to talk to the inductees.
Well, we talked a little bit about their careers, but how much they mean to the National Football League. Guys like this who are doing so many great things off the field now that their careers are over. Jim Kelly working with the foundation that deals with his son's illness, and so we talked about a lot of things, mostly about life and the contributions they've made to the NFL and to our society.
Kevin Williams just intercepted that Jesse Palmer pass to put Houston in scoring position here toward the end of the first half.
Of course, with Hampton, we talked a little bit about that Super Bowl victory.
Right, that '85 Bears, they were a great team. Watch Jesse Palmer here. he doesn't see that defense coming, and that's where they get in trouble. When, you know, that they play against those 4 defensive backs, then you put that 5th and 6th guy in there, and that's a 6th defensive back coming from the outside.
And it sets him up at the 24-yard line with 1 minute and 45 seconds remaining in the first half. And David Carr expected to play all of the first half, and that has been the case. And this will be Houston's 30th play. Dom Capers wanted him to play 30 plays, and he'll probably get a few more in as well after this one. Maybe he won't have to. It's caught by Billy Miller. Touchdown.
That's the thing that David Carr wanted right there. He wanted that before he went in. Hey, Billy Miller is their tight end, is their receiving tight end. Against the Cowboys the other night, he caught a big one. And that's the thing, if he's going to look for someone, as David Carr is going to look for someone down the middle, it's going to be Billy Miller. And that was a heck of a throw, wasn't it, Commissioner?
Absolutely. It's looking like those 3 guys you had on the screen before.
Yeah, this kid's impressive, isn't he?
He sure is. The whole team is, you know, they have a quiet self-confidence about them. They know what they have to do. Of course, they got a very experienced staff with Charlie Castley and Dom Capers. So,
oh, we got a little review here. Yeah, they moved Billy Miller around. We're going to watch him on that play. He was lined up in a slot. He wasn't lined up as a tight end. He's lined up right here, not on the line of scrimmage. And you're going to see he's going to come up, and then he's going to come back into the post. And right there, that's a perfect throw.
And this review now, since we're inside 2 minutes, is generated from the replay official upstairs. This is not a challenge.
See, he has to come down with both feet and have control of the ball. That's a close one. That's what the rule is. He has to have both feet down and have control of the ball.
35, the defensive back, is Clarence LeBlanc.
It's not a touchdown yet. Right now it is, though.
And that's exactly what they're looking for, to see whether he had possession.
He has possession, but did he have both feet down when he had possession?
Still haven't seen the ball hit the ground, so unless LeBlanc wrested it away from him, which I don't see that happening either. At that point, the ball is on the ground.
And his hands under the behind. Anything that happened after that, it doesn't make any difference. That's academic anyway. I think that it was called a touchdown, and I would guess that it stays a touchdown.
All right, Commissioner, you're supposed to assume a neutral stance. What do you think? They're all looking to you.
I'm very neutral here. I'm agreeing with John, and he's disagreeing with you, and I agree with you.
I think it's going to. I think it's going to be a touchdown.
You're like Switzerland, aren't you? You're going to stay neutral, man.
This is the first time I've been in the booth for a replay review.
Oh, well, here it is. Now he has control. There's left foot right there. Both feet down. I think this has to be a touchdown.
The Houston receiver possessed the ball while in the air, bringing it to his body. Ball never hitting the ground. Therefore, the ruling stands. Touchdown.
There you go.
You were right.
More often than not, they are right.
Does Carr have a sense of the dramatic? He's going to play 30 plays. That's the 30th play, as Bob McNair applauds the decision. And it's like in journalism, the 3-0 mark. End of story.
You know, I was wondering about that. You know, at what point, you know, expansion team, are they even going to get 30 offensive plays in the first half?
Chris Brown converts. And with 1:38 remaining, it's 10-10. You know, Commissioner, one of the great things about this weekend, and I've been doing this for a number of years, is not only seeing the class inducted, but seeing all of the guys come back year after year after year. It's been terrific.
Well, it is terrific, and next year we're going to be celebrating the 40th anniversary of the Hall of Fame, and we're going to have all of the living members of the Hall of Fame back. There'll be 125 or more players, and we did it 2 years ago, and it was a big success, and we're going to do it again next year. We got more than 8 decades of football and 8 decades of heroes. Hopefully we'll have all the Hall of Famers back here next year.
Oh, that's great. That'll be very, very special.
And I think we ought to even take it, you know, one step more, where all the players get to know the Hall of Famers. You know, that, you know, where we bring them out here and the players. Remember the All-Star baseball game in Boston, and Ted Williams came out there, and the players all went out and hugged them. And I thought that was a great scene. Somehow, you know, I wish we could get that in our.
Well, we're getting more of that. More and more of the teams have Hall of Fames. We're trying to tie them into the Hall here at Canton. And I think you're right, John. There's a tradition and legacy there that needs to be encouraged.
You know, I know one of the things, I went to this luncheon on Friday, you know, with all the Hall of Famers, and one of the traditions they have, Ray Nitschke was such a great player and a great ambassador for professional football, the ex-Green Bay Packers, and after they have their luncheon, they all go through the hall and they just rub his head. And I think that's a thing that kind of gives you chills, you know, and it reminds us where we all came from.
Tuthill's kickoff with the game tied, fielded in the end zone. Dixon thought about staying there and then comes out. Paul, thanks very much for coming by, as always.
Thank you.
Great way to start the season, seeing the commissioner in Canton.
See you in New England on the first week of the regular season.
We will be there, Pittsburgh against New England on opening night.
Thanks
Great.
a lot.
Okay.
John, good to have you.
Toyota halftime show is coming up. The Hall of Fame class of 2002, the induction ceremony. And John and I will talk about the weekend here in Canton, which is not only a weekend these days, but as John said before, gets underway on Thursday night, goes all the way through Monday night. Who knows? Maybe there's a breakfast tomorrow we don't even know.
That's an endurance test. I swear it's a marathon.
Jesse Palmer out of the pocket and almost out of the ballpark, just flinging it away.
Yeah, well, see, he can do that because he got outside that tackle box. Now, if he were inside the tackle box, then he couldn't throw the ball away. But once he got outside, that's one of the things that they give the quarterbacks to help them. That any time that, you know, if they get out there, they can throw the ball away, and this would be the tackle box right here. So if they get outside of this, then they can throw the ball away. See right there, he can't now. Right there, he's outside the tackle box, and he can throw it away.
2nd and 10, and that pass is through the hands of Sean Bennett. DeMarcus Fagan's covering on the play.
I think Sean Bennett's going to make the Giants team this year. You remember 3 years ago, it looked like he was going to be the real deal, and then he had some injuries and then was waived, and then, you know, coming back now, and it looks like he has made his way back, and he's going to be one of the Giants running backs this year.
Actually started the 99 season because of a couple of injuries to the other running backs. Palmer jams that one into Jeremy Shockey, the tight end, and Jeff Posey, who had an earlier sack and has been all over the place for the Texans.
And how in the heck Palmer got rid of that when Posey was right on him? I mean, he had to step, and as he was carrying through, he had to carry Posey with that ball.
1st and 10 now from the 35-yard line, and here is Shockey again. And Shockey showing some great moves, staying in bounds. And how about that for a forearm? Wow.
Who does that remind you of? That's Mark Bavaro.
Sure.
Remember when the Giants were great? Look at Keith Hamilton's gray head and say, that's what we want. We want an offensive guy that plays like a defensive guy. That's exactly what they want.
But there's a flag down all the way back at the 46-yard line.
I know that every old Giant player and every Giant fan has to be thinking of Mark Bavaro when they saw Jeremy Shockey do that.
Personal foul, grabbing the face mask, defense. The penalty will be assessed half the distance to the goal. 1st down.
Look at this. It's just a short out. Whap right there. Put his shoulder down, runs through a face mask, and watch this right here. That's what it do. Just lower your shoulder and run over anything that's there. You know, you have a theory. Sometimes it's a lot easier to go through something than it is around it.
Kevin Williams must have thought your bus came through.
Yeah, that would be something with the bus right there. He is something, and he has the emotion too. I mean, and it's a game to him, and it's fun, and this is going to be big for the Giants this year. They're going to go back to offensively back to the days of Mark Bavaro. That was one of the things Sean Payton was talking about, you know, how they're going to change the offense, and he says we have to change the offense for Jeremy Shockey.
Well, and speaking of Mark Bavaro, I guess if there was a play that symbolized his career, well, a 13-yard touchdown reception in the Super Bowl was one of them. But this Monday night catch in 1986
was unbelievable. Over the middle, dragging half of the 49er defense with him. And that, in one picture, summed up Mark Bavaro.
Yeah, and I think that, I'm not anointing Shockey another Bavaro, because Bavaro was one of the greatest tight ends that I had ever seen. But I think if he continues to develop, he's going to be in that class.
Giants taking a time out here. Wellington Mara, the esteemed head of the New York Giants. He and Bob Tisch, the co-owners of the team, and both in attendance tonight.
You think of history and the Hall of Fame, you think of the Maras, don't you?
Right. Wellington in the Hall of Fame. First and goal. And that pass is knocked down. It'll be second down with 35 seconds remaining for the Giants. It's a funny thing, John. We're talking about Bavaro. We're talking about Shockey. But in between, you have a guy who played more games than anybody in the history of the New York Giants, Howard Cross, who will be the completely forgotten man.
Yeah, because they never threw him the ball. I mean, Howard Cross was a great blocker and wasn't much a receiver. And then the last few years, they just stopped throwing him the ball at all.
Second and goal, and there is Shockey.
I think we've seen a couple of first-round draft choices in the first half of this game tonight that are the real deal. And that's what you like inside that red zone. The big target there, they just let him go off the line. I mean, he's a guy that from now on, when they see number 80 coming off the line, someone is going to bump him off the line and someone's going to cover him downfield. He has some emotion too, doesn't he?
Yeah. And he's only been in camp a few days. Extra point by Pochman is good.
They have these mini camps or these off-season camps, and he's only been in camp 4 days, but he was in with the Giants and working with them for 5 weeks.
Well, Jim Fossil's been the coach for 5 years now, and there are the rankings of the tight ends in various categories since Jim took over. And again, that was basically Howard Cross, whose role was to block. They very rarely used the tight end, and thus they were at the bottom or near the bottom of the league in all of those categories.
But this is what you want a tight end to do. We talked about Bavaro, but Dave Casper used to do this same thing. Get in the open field, and once you get a big 255-pound guy in the open field and he can get one-on-one on those little corners and safeties, he should always do that. And they're going to learn one thing, that you got to bump them, you have to cover them, and you better tackle them low. Because from his waist up, he is a load. He puts one of those ham bones on you, man, and you're going down.
Rookie tight ends in the past who've had big first years. Well, Keith Jackson came into the league with the Eagles in '88, caught 81 balls. Mike Ditka is in the Hall of Fame. Charlie Young back in '73 at 55. And Cam Cleveland as a Saint 4 years ago, 54.
And I was talking about Dave Casper and his induction into the Hall of Fame and how he reminds me of Shockey. I didn't even play Casper his first 2 years. That was, maybe the first years out of Notre Dame, and rookies didn't play as quickly in those days, but there was no excuse for me not playing him in his second year. I kind of held him back.
The two rookies, the two #1 picks, Carr, Shockey.
They came here and put on a show in this first half.
They have, absolutely. Fielded at the 8-yard line. This is Michael Jenkins. Back up to the 27-yard line. 25 seconds left in the half. Let's check in again with Melissa.
Al, we have some more information for you on Texans safety Leamon Evans, who was carted off the field in the second quarter. Official word from the team, he's at the hospital right now. His vitals are normal. He's breathing normally. He still has no feeling in his arms or his legs. He's about to undergo an MRI and an additional test. We'll keep you posted.
Okay. Thank you, Melissa. Evans hurt. If you joined us after the play on a punt return, got his head down, went down, and that is the latest on Leamon Evans. David Carr will finish out the first half out of the shotgun, but They'll play it conservatively as he hands the ball off to Michael Jenkins, and he's taken down by the Giant defender at the 23-yard line. Ross Kalaja made the tackle, and a timeout is called by the Texans.
You know, we talked about how good these Texans have looked in this first half. They scrimmaged the Cowboys on Friday night and didn't look good, and what an improvement they've made in 2 days.
Yep. And an improvement tonight along the way here. Their first 2 drives were stuttering, and then Carr able to get things going. Reminder that the regular season for Monday Night Football begins on the 9th of September. The Super Bowl champion Patriots opening up a brand new stadium and hosting the Pittsburgh Steelers on Monday night, September the 9th.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
We have to run you for alderman here pretty soon. What do you think?
Here in Canton?
The whole county.
I'll tell you, there's something about the Midwest and Ohio, and being at a high school field in the Hall of Fame, that and it feels pretty good. You know what I mean?
It's really the perfect place where the people appreciate it. Become a great tourist attraction, and they really live for this weekend. Well, it's the end of the first half in Canton, Ohio, with the New York Giants leading the Houston Texans 17-10. The Toyota halftime show coming up. We'll take a look at highlights from the induction ceremony on Saturday when we come back after this message from the NFL and a word from our ABC stations. This is ABC Sports Championship Television.
The Toyota halftime show, brought to you by Toyota. Get the feeling. Here now, Al Michaels.
It's halftime in Canton, Ohio at Fawcett Stadium. Full house looking on. End of a great weekend. Really 5 days, actually. 17-10, the Giants leading. As we talked to the commissioner about the fact they had moved the ceremony into the stadium, several thousand people were looking on Saturday afternoon for the induction of 5 brand new Hall of Famers. So let's take a look at that quintet and highlights from Saturday's ceremony. The late George Allen set a mark for most seasons coached without a losing record, 12.
Just remember this, 40 men together can't lose. Okay.
After 5 years with the Rams, Allen continued his success in the nation's capital, where his motto was winning is living, leading the Redskins to a berth in Super Bowl VII.
Teamwork, hard work, pride, determination, and competitive spirit permeated the life and times of the man I am honored to present for induction to the greatest sports Hall of Fame of them all, Coach George Allen.
The Ghost, Dave Casper, played 11 seasons primarily with the Raiders. In 1977, it was Ghost to the post as Casper caught 3 touchdown passes in a double overtime playoff win against the Colts.
I became part of a great team built by Al Davis, coached by John Madden, who maybe could have started me a couple games earlier. But you know what? He was on my butt every day. He made me better than I was willing to be.
The Great Bear defense of the 80s was led up front by the man known as Danimal. Dan Hampton's relentless style of play symbolized his 1985 unit that yielded just 12 points per game and went on to a dominating win in Super Bowl 20.
I'm the luckiest guy that you'll ever meet, because I'm the 25th Chicago Bear to go into that building over there. God, Papa Bear would be really smiling, and I'm sure he is somewhere today.
John Stallworth was a gifted and accomplished wide receiver with the 4-time Super Bowl champion Pittsburgh Steelers of the 1970s. Stallworth was at his best when it meant the most, catching touchdown passes in a record 8 consecutive playoff games.
I have vivid memories of games won and games lost, of good seasons and seasons not so good, of dreams fulfilled and dreams that seem to wither with time. With this honor, this recognition, I can put that part of my life to rest.
Kelly is the first of the fabled quarterback class of '83 to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. Kelly thrived in the K-gun no-huddle offense, leading the Bills to 8 playoff berths and an unparalleled 4 consecutive Super Bowl appearances.
It has been written throughout my career that toughness is my trademark. Well, the toughest person I've ever met in my life is my hero, my soldier, my son, Hunter.
And that will be the moment everyone in attendance on Saturday will remember as the Hall of Fame class of 2002 was inducted here in Canton.
And as we continue from Canton, this took place on Friday morning, the 5 inductees. And also, John Madden received the Pete Rozelle Radio and Television Award. And then the next day, John was there to induct Dave Casper.
When you have all these great players of the past that are up here, that was like the holy roller. When that thing rolls there, Casper, just jump on it. You know what I mean?
Been a long weekend, but a lot of fun for you. I know that.
Yeah, it was a great weekend. Like I said, it started on Thursday night, and it's culminating tonight. And you know, to be here and to see all those great players and new inductees, and to be with Dave Casper, who I coached, was a lot of fun.
Let me ask you about Dom Capers right now. His team finally seeing action. This franchise born 3 years ago. He's been the head coach for 2 years, but tonight it finally happens for him. If you're Dom Capers right now, how do you feel?
I think I would feel great, because I know the one thing, I have a quarterback, and he's going to have bumps in the roads, and tonight's not going to jump him right in here to the Hall of Fame, but I'd feel very good about that. I know I was talking to Dom Capers the other day, and he said, he said, I want us to look good, but I don't want us to look too good, because then we'll think we're good. We're really not.
That's right. People will start having unrealistic expectations. Another guy I think who's feeling pretty good right now is Jim Fossil, because here's a look at his first-round draft choice, Jeremy Shockey. He's the real deal.
Around here, there's no pie chart to measure progress.
The muscles are sore from the job, not the gym.
The resumes are built one story at a time.
And the company car actually works for a living. The Toyota Tundra, better from the ground up.
The Toyota Halftime Show, brought to you by Toyota. Get the feeling. We'll be back with the second half kickoff after this from our ABC station.
David Carr, big first half. 9 out of 17, 96 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Through a lot of very precise passes. John talked about the arm strength. Threw a bullet to the left sideline, threw a bullet to the right sideline.
Yeah, the first half, combined with what I've seen in practice, David Carr has all the throws.
Now the Texans begin the second half with Jonathan Carter for the Giants on the return. After taking the bouncing kick, he brings it back to the 37-yard line. Speaking of David Carr, here he is with Melissa.
Well, Al, he said that his goals were simple tonight, just to move the ball. 96 yards, 1 touchdown, an interception. I'd say you did that. What do you think of your first NFL action?
Wish I was still out there. I really do. I mean, it was fun. It was nice to get some confidence with our guys, and we've never taken a snap before in live competition. The scrimmage last week doesn't really count, but this was nice.
Why aren't you playing the second half?
They took me out. They yanked me, but that's fine. We got plenty of time for that.
Now, you are expected to be the cornerstone of this franchise, and everyone who talks about you says how confident, how humble, how smart. everything. I mean, you almost sound too good to be true. Is there a lot of pressure on you?
Yeah, there's pressure, but I put more pressure on myself than I think anybody else can. You know, I just that's kind of the way I've always gone about it. You know, I think if you put enough pressure on yourself to succeed, then you know you're going to make most people happy.
You were married at 19. You already have a son, Austin, who's 2 years old. You have another one on the way, due in December. How are you going to be able to handle games and practice and delivery and diapers?
Well, I mean, everybody says it's like I don't have enough excitement in my life, you know, but it's neat. I mean, I'm having a great time in my life right now. Everything's going great. This football thing is just icing on the cake with everything else that's going on with my wife and, you know, our new little boy that we're going to have, and especially Austin. He runs the house, so actually I want to say hi to them. But other than that, everything's great.
Good luck this season.
Thanks a lot.
All right, thank you, Melissa. As this pass is incomplete, a little mistiming on that one, intended for Jonathan Carter in a manner of speaking. And it'll be 3rd down and 1. Take a look at some numbers now through the first 30 minutes. With the Giants holding a 10-point halftime lead and holding the edge in rushing and passing.
In total and everything.
On the scoreboard, 3rd down and 1. And this is Bennett. He gets dragged down.
See, that's what you can do in that 3-man line. You can bring that forth and play all your coverages. And that's exactly what they did. McLean came that time. You don't know where that 4th guy is coming from. In a 4-man line, you always know where the 4 are because they're usually the guys with their hand down. When you only have 3, then you're going to get a 4th, and he can come from any one of the other 8 positions.
Now Gabe Lindstrom will punt. Trevor Inslee is back to receive. Rodney Williams figures to be the punter, but Lindstrom does have a little bit of an outside chance to win the job. From the 13-yard line, Inslee brings it back to the 20. And Jonathan Carter makes the tackle, but there's a penalty on the play. Tony Correnti is the referee, and this one is against the Giants. So Correnti wants to know if the Giants should kick again. He needs to find one of the Texans.
Jim Fossil also has to feel pretty good about his team.
Illegal formation, kicking team, number 60, lined up in the backfield. The penalty is declined. 1st down.
So Houston will get it back at the 21. Well, the pace of this one slackened, huh? Well, as I said, John, the pace of this one is really slackened. And now we'll go to a commercial. 13:47 left in the third. Giants on top 17-10. David Carr is done for the night, and the former Giant, in fact, he had 2 stints with them, Kent Graham comes
Graham
in.
has been a little disappointing in training camp, and in fact he's really number 3. Mike Quinn is number 2, but he's injured tonight.
Graham has bounced around through the years, played his college ball at Ohio State, and he hands the ball off to Jonathan Wells. So they bring in the veteran quarterback and the rookie running back after going with Carr, the rookie, and then having him working basically with the veteran James Allen in the first half.
And David Carr was telling us last night how grateful he is with Kent Graham. That Kent Graham's really been helping him. You know, one of those things where they talk and they get meetings and they go over the plays and tells them, you know, checks and things to look for. And he said that he's been invaluable in what he's done with him.
Be alert now.
Said be alert now.
2nd and 6, hands the ball off. Jonathan Wells again up to the 29-yard line, still a couple of yards shy of the 1st down.
That's what happens, I think, sometimes, Al, when you're a veteran quarterback like Kent Graham and you have a young offensive line. I think you coach him right up there on the line of scrimmage. Kent Graham was up there and he pointed to his left and said, be alert now.
Yeah. Don't get me killed.
Yeah, he does. And he was talking about his left side, too, which is his blind side. He was coaching him up there.
Carr, and there is Mike Quinn in uniform, but as John said, does not figure to play tonight. In fact, will not play.
You see where he has his helmet, though?
On 3rd and 2, the pass is complete, and that is John Minardi making the catch. I didn't notice.
Yeah, he wears it on his wrist, and the reason a backup quarterback wears it on his wrist is because he can hear the plays, you know, as the coach calls it in to Kent Graham's helmet. He can hear it. See right there? It's right in there, too, so he can hear the play that's being called in. So that's what he's writing it down for us. So it's not just some quirk that he has of wearing his hat on his wrist. He wears his hat on his wrist to hear what the guy's talking about in the play.
Got to turn the volume up.
It is up.
From the 36-yard line, swinging to the outside, and that's Jonathan Wells exhibiting a little bit of burst there as he picks up 3 to the 39-yard line.
You know, Melissa was talking to David Carr about, you know, a wife and a son and another son on the way. His father moved down there also, and his father goes to practice every day. His brother, who went to Bakersfield Junior College, is going to transfer and play at the University of Houston. So he's going to have his parents, his wife, his kids, his brother, the whole group of them is going to be down there.
How about naming his son Austin as if he had a premonition he'd be drafted by the Texans, the state capital?
One of the reasons he said that he was happy to be drafted, he said he knew, he didn't tell anyone, but he knew he was going to be the #1 pick. And then I guess after the Senior Bowl, between the Senior Bowl in February and the draft in April, they told him that he was going to be the #1 choice. So he moved down there and got everything set up. But he said, the thing I like about the Texans is their uniforms are cool. He goes and wear that cool uniform. He named one place he didn't want to go where ugly jumps up on you.
Not that far from here.
In this state.
In this state anyway. 3rd and 6. And this is Wells again, and he comes very close to picking up the first down. So the other thing that Carr said last night that amazed me is that he knew in '99 when Houston was granted its franchise and they'd start in 2002, he knew he'd be getting out of Fresno State in 2002, and he said it was like a private dream of his that he would wind up with the Houston Texans.
Yeah, and you always wonder about those private dreams, if they told anyone before or if that's something they tell after the fact. But he's one of those kids that's just happy about everything, happy being here. And like you told Melissa, he wished that he were still playing. This is when he first came on the field tonight. You always like to see that. Look at that laugh. The eyes get big. The tongue comes out. That's the way you want your quarterback to look. You don't want them all tight and nervous. And the last thing you want in a quarterback is to be scared.
And there he is 2 hours and 15 minutes later.
Oh, no, he's on top of the world right now. He's feeling awfully good about himself.
4th and inches right now, and the Texans on this 5th night of August would do something here they probably would not do on the 10th night of September or whatever it is. I think it's the 8th night of September that they open up. 4th and inches and Gray.
They aren't going to snap it. This is just going to try and draw him off sides. They won't snap it, take the penalty. Yeah, you see they started that motion, and I knew when they started motion because they told me they weren't going to use any motion. So that was to, you know, get the motion going, get the long count, the hard count.
Offense, 5-yard penalty remains 4th down.
Now that I think about it, they would do that on the 8th night of September. Try to draw the defense off side.
and then punt, because at this position on the field, with this field position, you can take a 5-yard penalty. If you're like inside the 30, you couldn't do that because you couldn't take the penalty.
Now John Baker, who was with the Rams, and wouldn't this be culture shock if he winds up with the Texans this year? And when you're a Rams punter, you barely get off the bench. It'll be a different story in Houston this year. And this punt, the Giants let go, and it rolls into the end zone. So New York will take over with 9 minutes, 10 seconds remaining in the Hall of Fame game here in Canton. 17-10, Gents.
Hall of Fame here in Canton. Well, a Hall of Fame broadcaster has passed on. Chick Hearn, the longtime announcer for the Los Angeles Lakers, passed away earlier today, and our deepest sympathies to Marge, his wife, and to the family. And boy, you talk about one of a kind. That was Chick Hearn. On 1st and 10, the pass is caught out in the flat. I think about Chick, and I know you listened to him for years, John, but when you think of the Lakers, you know so many of the guys by the first name, Jerry and Elgin and Wilt, and then Magic and Kobe and Shaq, and you knew him by just that one name, Chick. Phenomenal.
And those are the guys that are so special, that, you know, do it and become a voice of someone, and then become part of the team and part of the organization. And you just listen to him all your life, and you just associate. I mean, the Lakers and Chick Hearn, that's it.
Absolutely. Sean Bennett takes that one up to about the 30-yard line.
Yeah, we were talking about the 4-3 and the 3-4, and what the difference is. If you look here, here's a 4-3. You have 1, 2, 3, 4 defensive linemen and 3 linebackers. Now you could only bring these 4 guys, and if you want to play all your coverages. Now when you go to the 3-4, here's the difference. You have 1, 2, 3 defensive linemen, then you have 4 linebackers, and your 4th rusher can come from any one of these positions. And I think that's a real advantage if you don't see it a lot.
Flag is thrown. For intentional grounding. Was that the call? Tony Corrente with the initial signal.
Intentional grounding, offense number 3. This penalty includes loss of down, 2nd down.
See what they do. We talked about getting outside the tackle box and being able to throw it away, but if you're inside the tackle box, you can't throw it away. See, and he's getting sacked here, and he just throws the ball away. There's no receiver out there. Now again, had he been able to scramble outside, then he can throw it away. Or if he had a screen pass now, they let it throw it at the guy's feet. But you can't throw it to non-receiver.
2nd and 20 from the 21-yard line. And this is Sean Bennett. All the way out to the 37-yard line, where he's tackled by Hakeem Akbar.
They were talking to Sean Payton last night, the offensive coordinator, and he was saying that you know, he was talking about using two backs and 2 backs at the same time, and he was talking about using this guy Sean Bennett in there because he's a guy that he thinks can be like a running back. He can block a little, can be a receiver, and he said they're going to use some 2-back this year with Sean Bennett.
Now Damon Washington is in the game as the running back on 3rd down and 4. Palmer throws, caught. Should be enough for a 1st down. Jonathan Carter picks up the 1st down. Let's go to the field again. Check in with Melissa Stark.
All right, Al. Well, Dan Hampton played on the 1985 Bears defense that many people consider the greatest ever. But if you look at your entire career, can you pick out a single moment that stands out the most?
Well, a couple of them. You know, everybody that plays the game, they want to be one of the best. And you know, I remember in '84. The Raiders come into Chicago, and we got after them pretty good. Then later in the year, we went into RFK and handled the defending world champion Redskins. And, you know, the Super Bowl was great, but to be a part of a team that was up and coming and kind of really understanding how good we could be, man, it was really special.
Up until the Ravens 2000 defense, the 85 Bears held the record for fewest points allowed in a 16-game season. What was the single greatest characteristic about that defense?
Well, I have no doubt that, you know, I will not be the only other member besides Singletary to go in the Hall of Fame. Hopefully Richard Dent, but there are so many great players. I think off that defense, we had 9 guys make a Pro Bowl at any one time. And if there's anything you can say about make it, you know, something, and ask Madden, you know, great players make coaches look pretty smart. And I'll tell you what, Buddy Ryan was a genius, but we had some great athletes. And I'll tell you what, we loved each other and we played the game the way you should play it.
Congratulations. Al, all of this from a former saxophone player who had no aspirations to play football.
Yeah, and here he is in Canton.
Yeah, and he can ask me, and that is so true, that great players make coaches pretty good. if you don't have players,
Holding.
there's nothing you can do.
Offense, number 63, 10-yard penalty. It'll remain first down.
Let's watch Jonathan Carter's catch here. You see, he has tight coverage. Now, he dances a little too much, but then he gets his little burst. I'll tell you, Palmer just throws that ball right out there perfectly. That was a heck of a throw. But, when Jonathan Carter starts to jump around like that, you got to pop him. You can't let him just jump around like that in front of you.
There's a 38-yard pickup for him, and now Sean Bennett on 2nd and 20 picks up about 3. I was thinking of, John, as you were diagramming the 4-3 and the 3-4, and they're named pretty much for the ratio of linemen to linebackers. And then you had the Bears, and they're noted for their 46 defense, which was named for Doug Plank, and that was his number.
Yeah, and that was because he was a safety, and they brought him up. They were basically a 4-3 defense, would give you 7 guys, and then they'd bring the safety up on one side. It would be Doug Plank, then that would give you an 8-man front.
2nd and 16. Palmer fakes a toss, and then by his shirt tail is taken out of bounds by Gary Samuel.
Number 3. Jesse Palmer's playing pretty well tonight too. I mean, that's one of the things that they want to find. They want to get an offensive line. They want their special teams. They want to see their tight end. But the other thing they want to do is see if they have a second quarterback, and if that second quarterback is Jesse Palmer. And he reminds me of a Florida quarterback. I mean, a guy that just goes back there and like Steve Spurrier said, we just go out there and pitch it around a little. He just comes out there and pitch it around a little.
Steve has a couple of his quarterbacks with him right now in Washington. Danny Werfel playing the other night behind Sage Rosenfels. That pass is incomplete. He also has Shane Matthews down there. With the Giants, when you talk about a number 2 quarterback, well, you're playing behind Kerry Collins, who has been indestructible. Not only has he not missed a start in over 2 years, he's the only player in league history to throw every one of his team's passes over a 2-year period. Jason Garrett, who has backed them up, has not thrown a single pass in a regular season game in 2 years.
And Jason Garrett is a holder now, which to me means when you use a guy as a holder, he's going to be active and he's going to make your team.
37-yard attempt for Owen Potchman. And he bangs that one through with 5:10 remaining in the 3rd quarter. The Giants extend their lead 20-10 New York. Monday Night Football is being brought to you by Ford, No Boundaries, by Gatorade Thirst Quencher, Gatorade, Is It In You? And Warner Brothers' new motion picture, Bloodwork, coming soon to theaters everywhere. Al Michaels with John Madden and Melissa Stark as we begin our 33rd season of Monday Night Football. Jim Fossil begins his 6th season as the Giants head coach. He is the dean of NFC coaches right now. Travis Prentice to run the kickoff back. And Prentice with a beauty all the way out to midfield. Former Cleveland Brown comes down the road to put the Texans in good position. 20-10 New York. Giants on top 20-10. Tiki Barber saw some early action, was effective, but is done for the night. Was done early. Nice first half for David Carr, but earlier on this punt play, Leamon Evans, coming from the left of your screen, puts his head down and then he goes down, and he was taken to a local hospital. Still no further word on his condition. He's conscious. It's a neck injury, but still has no feeling in his arms or legs. So if we know anything, obviously any further before we go off the air, we will let you know. But all of our thoughts are with Leamon Evans right now.
Okay, 2nd down 10.
2nd down and 10 now for the Houston Texans. Kent Graham came up with the Giants when he left Ohio State. Played with Arizona. Was a Lion for a while. And he flips one out to Wells.
So one Buckeye to another. That's a gain of 4. Once again, Melissa.
Well, Michael Strahan is coming off a season in which he broke the single-season sack record. How do you transition from that and then set personal goals for yourself this season?
Well, I think you just kind of go out and have fun and let whatever happens. You don't say I need to break it again because too much pressure to put on yourself. So I'm just going to enjoy the season, enjoy it just like I enjoyed this game, and just let everything happen the way it should.
Recently, Bucs defensive tackle Warren Sapp said that there should be an asterisk next to your name because the record-breaking sack was controversial. What do you think?
Well, I think there should be a McDonald's right next to Warren's house the way he looks sometimes. So, you know what, I'm not even worried about that. You know, I've had things with Warren before. Warren said some things, and you know what? Doesn't justify even responding to him at this point. I said what I had to say. Hopefully that's good enough, and I just hope he has a good season. I hope the Bucs do well, and maybe he can make the playoffs and possibly a Super Bowl.
One of the big offseason stories with the Giants was the much publicized feud between you and Tiki Barber over your contract. Where do you guys stand right now?
Well, I think there was no feud with Tiki Barber myself. Tiki Barber said the way he felt, and I always said Tiki Barber's the guy that we need to win, and I hope that he has a great season because I want to win games. I never came out and it created a feud by saying Tiki Barber's this bad person or anything like that, so I think that was a little bit misconstrued. But I think at this point we get along well. I mean, come out here and once we put on these pads, we're all on the same team. I'm high-fiving Tiki just like I'm high-fiving everybody else. I'm encouraging him, and he encourages me, and that's what we need to win, and that's what everybody's going to see this season.
You're in the final contract, the final year of your contract. Do you want to be a Giant next year?
Yeah, I'd love to. I mean, I've been here for 10 years. Great organization. They've taken very good care of me. I've had a lot of success here, and hopefully I can continue here, finish my career here, and one day have my Giants jersey retired and be able to run out on that field and just have the fans cheer that one last time.
Thanks, Michael.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Melissa. You just saw Ernie Accorsi, the general manager, Wellington Mara, the owner of the team, and there is Graham going down, making the acquaintance of one Wesley Mallard. We talked about Mallard, the former Oregon Duck, a 6th-round draft choice. And when you talk to the coaches before a preseason game and you ask them about surprises and guys that, you know, come out of nowhere, last night Capers was talking about him.
Yeah, and they really like Mallard. In fact, they have all 3 rookie linebackers are in there now. Nick Grayson is in the middle, Quincy Monk is outside, and Wesley Mallard is the other outside guy.
Well, Capers may have been talking about him, and Fossil was talking about him a little bit more.
Capers was talking about having to block him.
Right.
Well, Fossil was talking about how they're probably all going to make their team.
Well, Michael took the high road in the interview.
Yeah.
The very high road.
Look at that year that he had last year, 22.5 sacks, and the other players had 23.5. I saw him against the Rams, and it was one of the most dominating games by a defensive lineman that I'd seen since a Reggie White or a Charles Haley.
And in so many ways, that was such a definitive game for the Giants last year, a game they should have won, but the Rams were able to eke out. 3rd down and 14. Graham going for 6 and right on target to Sherrod Gideon for the touchdown.
Kent Graham is running down there. He's going to get down there and give Gideon something. He gave him a high jump or something. But he made a perfect throw on that one. Watch him again. These defensive backs are getting up there and they're not getting a bump. And they're just letting the guy get a free release. Then once he gets that free release and he gets on his outside shoulder, then all Kent Graham or the quarterback has to do is throw it over his outside shoulder, and there's no way that the defender can get there.
Sherrod Gideon played at Southern Mississippi as James Tuthill now adds the extra point. Gideon trying to win a job. That'll help. 20-17 Giants. Coming on Wednesdays this fall, 2 doctors who operate by their own rules take on a medical system that's completely sick. MDs new this fall, Wednesday nights, right here on ABC. Jason Sehorn in civvies.
Jason Sehorn probably won't be back until the start of the regular season.
And that'll be a month
from tonight as the kickoff is taken by Sean Riley, free agent from Western Michigan.
I said I was trying to get Casper to do something, get his hands up there in celebration like Sherrod Gideon's doing right here. This is what I was trying to teach him to do. I'm going to get this in slow motion and just take him and say, because he had that stupid thing with his hands down, get him up and do like that. Have each hand grab the other wrist. Right hand, left wrist, left hand, right wrist.
Did Dave ever celebrate a touchdown?
No, he never did. And Cliff Branch didn't either.
Oh, you're right. Now
Cliff Branch, I told him he did the first one he ever scored, and I told him never do that again.
Took instruction well. David Washington up to the 29. We talked very early on about the Giant offensive line, and that's the way they started the season last year when they opened in Denver with Brown and Parker, Ziegler, Stone, and Pettigrew. Brown and Parker and Stone are all gone. Ziegler's hurt right now. And here are your projected starters. And there are the number of starts. So Ziegler has 61 starts. Whittle has started 2 games, and the other 3 guys that have started no games.
Yeah, but I still think they have a chance to be a good offensive line. Jim McNally is their offensive line coach. I think they'll get healthy, and I don't think that's going to be a bad area. I mean, you may be a little nervous about it, but I think they have a chance to be okay.
Damon Washington through the middle up to the 30-yard line on play. As you look at McNally, they will end the 3rd quarter. So 3 periods gone in Canton with the Giants leading the Texans 20-17. Monday Night Football back after this from our ABC stations. 20-17, the Giants on top in good measure thanks to that man, Jeremy Shockey, their #1 draft choice. Touchdown reception in the first half, and now the Giants on 3rd down and 6 start the 3rd quarter with a Damon Washington 3-yard pickup. And they'll punt.
See, these are the things that Dave Casper couldn't do. I mean, I want him to do something like that, with the upper body, and he's working on them right now. He's watching these to work on them for the next introduction. When you get into Hall of Fame, you're introduced like 2,050 times, and you got to take waves and bows and hands and all that stuff. So you have to learn new tricks.
That was Rodney Williams on the sideline, and this is Gabe Lindstrom, who's trying to win Williams' job. Punt fielded at the 18-yard line by Trevor Inslee. He loses the ball, but the Texans are right there to pounce on it. Calvin Coleman created the fumble, but the Texans come up with it. 1 minute into the 4th quarter. No Monday night game next week, but a preseason game coming up from Denver on Monday night, August the 19th. It's the Niners against the Broncos. And Thursday on ESPN, that's this Thursday night, the Jets against the Pittsburgh Steelers as they open up their preseason schedules. Trevor Inslee, who fielded the punt and then fumbled, is the injured Texan.
Yeah, because he cut back to the inside. He cut back to his right, and he didn't see that hit coming. And those are the ones that get you. I remember Steve Young say, when he was going through that whole thing with his concussions, the toughest hits, he said the toughest hits are always ones you don't see. Inslee was going, he cut back into his right, and he didn't see that hit coming at all.
Let's check in again with Melissa.
All right, Al, another injury update on Texans safety Le'Amon Evans. He is starting to regain feeling in his upper body. He still has no feeling in his legs, but that's certainly a positive sign, and he's about to undergo that MRI and a CAT scan as well. So we will continue to keep you posted.
Okay, that's the first bit of even remotely encouraging news that we've gotten since that took place about an hour and a half ago. 14 minutes to play in regulation. 20-17 Giants. The injured Texan is Trevor Inslee, who was running back the punt when he was hit. And again, we have this scene taking place at Fawcett Stadium.
And I don't know if you want to look at this one, but it's his left ankle right there. That was when he was in pretty good position, and then as he started to cut back to his right, he didn't see they got coming from behind.
Inslee, wide receiver, kick returner, played with the Colts over the last couple of seasons. Had a tremendous college career at Nevada. And we'll get a report from Melissa as soon as she has the information. Meanwhile, we can take a look at the NFL expansion team since 1960, when the Cowboys came in and didn't win a game. And then you had the Vikings and the Falcons and Miami and New Orleans and Cincinnati all winning 3, and Seattle won 2. Tampa, of course, under John McKay in '76, winless. Capers Carolina team in '95 with the record, 7 wins. The Jags won 4, and then Cleveland a couple of years ago won 2. So what do you think, John? I mean, the Texans look to you like a team that'll win?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think the average expansion team wins 3 games a year, but this is not the average expansion team. I think this is the best expansion team that the NFL has ever had. But having said that, I still don't think they're going to win more than 5 or 6 games.
Ben Sankey is the new quarterback. So with Carr and Graham gone, Sankey, who would be number 4 on the depth chart, and all of a sudden a kind of inglorious beginning for the kid out of Wake Forest. Looking for somebody who wasn't there. Well, they're the first 8 expansion draft picks. One of the reasons they might be the best. Baselli, of course, a Pro Bowler, Young a starter with the Jets, as was Glenn. Walker a starter with Jacksonville. Sharper from Baltimore, as was Lewis. Coleman a Jet. Payne from Jacksonville. Some big names.
Yeah, they were saying that they got most of their players from the Jets and Jacksonville and the Ravens.
And that pass is dropped by Joey Knapp. It'll be 3rd down.
Yeah, I was just saying, or just thinking, for 3 quarters, this has been a pretty well played game. This isn't really even the first week of preseason, but this hasn't been a sloppy game at all. And when you think of it, there hasn't been a lot of penalties, there haven't been guys jumping off sides, or really hasn't been a lot of turnovers. And
right.
And I think a big part of that is the coaches. I think that Jim Fossil and his coaching staff, I think they do a good job, and I think Dom Capers is really a master at organization.
Well, the first quarter was almost penalty free, and that's something you never see. 3rd and 10, and that pass is caught by Travis Prentice, but he is taken down shy of the 1st down. Well, we talked about Capers and what he might be taking away from this game. If you're Jim Fossil, how do you feel at this point?
I'm a little disappointed in my special teams, and I mean, that was one area that he wanted to concentrate on, and he thought that they could do it tonight, and the Texans have had some pretty good returns against them. That would upset me a little. I would love the fact that my #1 draft choice looks like he's going to give me 40 to 50% of my offense.
Right there is Bruce Reed, and they've had special teams troubles over the past couple of years. So Reed comes over from San Diego to try to get that unit squared away.
And the big thing and the place you really can improve on is on your coverage teams. With good tacklers, with speed, with toughness, and that's your punt coverage and kickoff coverage. And they really haven't looked good in that area tonight.
Aaron Langley to punt. This is Antonio Warren. Up to the 43-yard line. Giants have the ball. 12:48 to play in the 4th quarter here. And the Giants have the lead. 20-17 over the Houston Texans. ESPN Sports Center coming up later tonight. We talked about the passing of Laker announcer Chick Hearn, and they'll report on Chick's illustrious career. Obviously, all the highlights of the day in sports. Recap of this one as well, which still has 12:48 to go. And the Giants have the lead in the ball at their own 43-yard line. Terry Collins started the game, but it's been Jesse Palmer since midway through the 1st quarter. And Palmer airs it out. There's Jonathan Carter for the touchdown. 57 yards to the 2nd-year guy out of Troy State, their 5th-round draft choice last year. His 2nd long reception of the night.
That's the old thing, speed kills, and Jonathan Carter, he just ran right by that coverage. He has double coverage. It's a zone, and he just splits the two of them. Watch Carter. He's right here. He's on the line. He's right here. Now they start out there in a double type of thing. He starts to the inside, and see they have a guy outside and the guy inside, and he just runs right through him.
Scott. One play, they go all the way. Matt Bryant for the extra point. Sean Payton.
Sean Payton just said he called a pretty good one. He lined him up like in an I formation outside and ran that touchdown pattern off it.
Saturday on ABC Sports, a semifinal playoff game in the Arena Football League at 3 Eastern Time. It'll come your way from San Jose, where San Jose will face either Orlando or Dallas, depending on the outcome of tonight's quarterfinal game. The Arena Football League semifinals on ABC Sports Championship Television.
Isn't Orlando where John Gruden's brother coaches?
I was just thinking the same thing, yeah.
A couple of Grudens down there in Florida.
Right. And that ball covered in the end zone. Matt Bryant with the kickoff, and Jonathan Wells. Mike Strahan, we talked about the fact he never sits down, and there he is getting in his exercise here in the fourth quarter.
The more things you could do, huh? Look at those arms and shoulders. That's where he gets that those moves he has. He always keeps his feet moving, and I'll tell you, he uses his hands and arms in a great way. Those are the arms of a pass rusher. I mean, he would be a tough guy to block. You know, if you were a tackle, you wouldn't want to be out there on an island.
Penalty. Will re-kick.
So after all that, forget about the touchback. Re-kick for offside. Melissa.
Well, Al, Senator George Allen is here representing his father, the late George Allen, and your dad had such a passion for the game and for football. What would he have thought about being inducted into the Hall of Fame?
He would have just thought it's the ultimate of all honors. He loved the game. He loved his players and his assistants and staff. He would have been thanking them all. They would have had to drag him off the stage, but he would have been so enthused about it all. And he loved Canton, and Deacon Jones did such a great job. But I know who he would have been most proud of, my mother. She was his steady Eddie, his MVP, and put up with all the ups and downs of being in professional football, and she deserves this honor as much as he does.
Speaking of family, your father obviously had high expectations. He never had a losing season in 12 years as a head coach. Expectations of his players, but also of you and your brothers and your sister. Did his coaching skills carry over into parenting at all?
Yeah, there was a lot of discipline around the house, and from my mother and him, but he always told us to be leaders, don't be followers. We expect more out of you. He had discipline that he didn't want us to smoke or drink or cuss. Until he said, if you didn't do that till you're 21, we'll give you $3,000 or a car. So that was, he had incentive bonuses there for not smoking or drinking or cursing.
Very nice. I wish you were my dad. Congratulations to you and your family.
Well, it's a great honor, and it's a team victory for all those associated with him.
Thanks very much.
All right, thank you, Melissa. When you think of George Allen's career, I think the most impressive thing, John, is the fact that when he took over the Rams, they'd had 7 losing seasons, and when he took over the Redskins, they'd had 14 out of 15 losing seasons, and he never had a losing season. Travis Prentice is the ball carrier here.
No, George was a heck of a coach, and I wonder how many of those cars of $3,000 he gave out. Senator Allen didn't say. He said that was the carrot there, but he didn't say how many he paid off. And you know, and he was right. I saw George's wife Etty was there, and there's a lot of proud parents, a lot of proud husbands and wives and fathers and all those types of things, and she was one of the proudest. She just beamed.
Sankey is the quarterback, and the give here for a gain of a couple up to the 38-yard line to Prentice. Texans will open with the Cowboys the opening weekend. And who could lose to an expansion team? Well, among the starting quarterbacks who have lost to a first-year expansion team, John Unitas, and then Sonny Jurgensen. How about that? George Blanda, Bob Greasy, 4 Hall of Fame quarterbacks. A head coach, George Halas. Bill Cowher lost to an expansion team. So did Bill Belichick and Bill Parcells.
pretty illustrious names.
You know, when you play an expansion team and then they haven't won a game, that's one list you don't want to make.
And this is Sankey running for a first down.
You know, the Texans have a tight end on their team that was just in there. In fact, I think he's coming back in now. Rashad Kent, he was the basketball player from Rutgers. Didn't play football, and he's a big guy. And you know, he doesn't really know football yet, and the blocking and the receiving, but he's a project. And if you're going to work with a project, he has a lot of those things that you want to work with.
Sankey throws, and that pass is incomplete. You know, I was thinking of those names on that list as we take a look at the play again. But you saw the name George Halas up there. He actually lost to the Vikings in the Vikings' first ever game, and the Vikings are the only expansion team to ever win its very first game.
Yeah, and that's the thing, that when you're playing those expansion teams, I remember we played Seattle as an expansion team, and I remember playing Tampa as an expansion team, Cincinnati, and that's the thing, that you worried more about those games than you did the real good teams.
MNF Harris makes the catch. I mean, that's the ultimate looking to the next week when you got one of those teams on your schedule.
Well, you know, as a coach, you always do that. You know, I mean, if you're playing a big rivalry game, if you're playing the Pittsburgh Steelers, you're playing the Jets with Joe Namath, or those types of guys, then you don't have to worry about getting your team up. It's when you're playing an expansion team that you have to worry about getting your team up.
Well, Dave Campo will be the first to face that test this year when Houston opens with Dallas on Sunday night, the 8th of September. On 3rd down and 3.
You see that last shot, old Chester Pitts over there getting his knees iced down. I'll tell you, big, heavy guys have a tough time on artificial turf.
Offense, number 60, 5-yard penalty remains, 3rd down.
There's Chester Pitts, number 69. He's an interesting case. He didn't play high school football. And he was working in a grocery store, and he ran into Kyle Turley, who was at San Diego State. He said, why don't you come out for football? So he went out for football at San Diego State, made the team, and then became a heck of a tackle. Now he's starting at left tackle for Tony Baselli. When Baselli comes back, Pitts will be the left guard.
Sankey goes deep. Coverage is good. Intended for MNF Harris. Coverage by Kendrick Lawrence. And there's another flag on the play. Well, that is normally the case in a preseason game. I mentioned early on we had very few flags in the first quarter, but once you get
I think it's that good coverage you were talking about was maybe a little too good.
A little too tight.
Yeah.
Pass interference, defense number 47. The ball will be spotted at the spot of the foul. Automatic, first down.
You see right here, after he gets past 5 yards, you can't touch him. And that's okay right there. That's the arm bar. And then it's right after that. In fact, it was the arm bar that he called him on. Well, then he could call him on that one, too.
20-yard penalty. The ball is at the 28-yard line. 9.5 minutes to play in the fourth quarter with the Giants up by 10.
Yeah. Omaha. Yeah.
Omaha. That's where you'll be in a day, right? Travis Prentice stopped at the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, right after this game, we take off and the bus go across 80, and we will be going Omaha. We'll be in Omaha by probably morning.
By tomorrow morning. Speaking of travels and towns and all of that, NFL realigning this year in the Eastern Division. You've got Buffalo, Miami, New England, and the Jets. Indianapolis came out of that division. And in the North, it's Baltimore, Cincinnati, Cleveland, and Pittsburgh, which looks a lot like the old AFC Central. On 2nd and 11, that pass is incomplete. And with 32 teams, it's symmetrical right now. So you have 8 divisions of 4 teams each. In the South, you've got Houston with Indy, Jacksonville, and Tennessee forming that division, and you play each of your division rivals twice. And then the West is the way it was, except for Seattle, with Denver, KC, the Raiders, and the Chargers. And that's the way it was when you were coaching, John, before Seattle came into the league.
Yeah. And then Seattle came in as expansion, and that's when I coached against expansion.
3rd down and 11. Now Seattle has moved over to the NFC, to the NFC West. We'll get to that in due course as they get to Sankey in due course. That's Matt Matrone wearing Jesse Armstead's old number. Melissa.
Well, Al, another injury update on Houston safety Leamont Evans, who was carted off the field in the second quarter, who is now at the hospital. We told you earlier that he was regaining feeling in his upper body, but not his legs. Now we can report to you that he is regaining feeling in his right leg. We will continue to keep you posted, but certainly a step in the right direction.
Good. Well, the news gets better and better. Hope he keeps up that pattern is Chad Stanley. Floats one toward the end zone that bounces at the 2, but then bounces into the end zone.
39-yard punt.
And so with a little bit more than 8 minutes to play now in the 4th quarter, the Giants are on top of the Texans 27-17 in Canton. Monday Night Football is being brought to you by Rocky Mountain Cold Coors Light. Cold down easy. By Lamisil tablets and Nissan and your Nissan dealer. Inside the Hall of Fame here in Canton, Ohio. End of a long weekend celebration.
What's the word they use for halls like that? Hallowed? Isn't it hallowed?
Hallowed, yes.
I mean, you walk through there and it feels like you're walking through a hallowed hall. Hallowed hall.
Hallowed grounds.
Hall grounds. You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, you know, as a coach, when you play a first preseason game, there are certain things you want to get mad at. And I want something like this. I mean, you got 10 men out there, and then you got a guy running off, then someone yells, "Get back there," and they're going to punt, and you don't have enough guys in the field, a guy running in late. Those are the things that happen in preseason that sometimes as a coach you really want, so you can get up and you can have something to get on them about.
Palmer on 1st and 10, going deep again, and a little too deep that time for Ron Dixon. One measure of how poor the Giants special teams were last year, if you look at that, the average start following a kickoff for the Giants was the 24-yard line. That was the worst in the league. Their opponents started on average at the 33, which was the worst in the league on the other side. So in other words, they were giving up 9 yards per kickoff. You know, times how many kickoffs would you have in a season? About 70. And so automatically the Giants start their drive start with about a 600-yard disadvantage for the year.
Well, in football life, you always want a lot of kickoffs and not many kickoff returns. I remember once I had a coach who we were getting ready to play a first game, and he had like 8 kickoff returns. And I said, if we used half of those, we're getting killed.
That's right.
No, you don't want a lot. You'd like in a game to have 1 kickoff return. That's it.
3rd down and 8 from the 33. And the guy didn't think it through because why would he shoot his wad with a head coach? I mean, if you drew up 8, you'd save a few, wouldn't you, for the next time?
Well, key word, he didn't think it through. It was my first game. I'm going to have a lot. We're like an offensive coordinator. They want a lot of play. We're going to have a lot of plays. We're going to have this guy is going to have a lot. I'm going to have a lot of kickoff returns. I said, we'll never use those kickoff returns. If we do, you're going to get fired, and I am too, probably.
Did the guy last?
Yeah, he did. No, he did last. No, he was a good guy. He was a good coach, and became a good coach. But that's one thing, again, that you don't want a lot of. You'd like a lot of kickoff coverages and very few kickoff returns.
Gabe Lindstrom The Texans let it bounce. We have a flag down back at the line of scrimmage as the ball rolls dead at the 11-yard line.
I think both of these coaching staffs, like I said earlier, have done a good job, because a lot of times, these games turn into slop in the second quarter. And this one really held up until the fourth quarter. In the fourth quarter, it was when we started getting sloppy.
Kicking team number 34. 10-yard penalty remains. Fourth down.
What's that on the field there? Oh, that's. I guess they have different hash marks. They have like 1, 2, 3 sets of hash marks, because I don't know what the other set would be for.
Well, you have
the high school have high school and college have different.
I believe they must. Looking at these,
I know that they play high school, and I know that they play college games here.
Right. Right. And that would be yep. My man George Hill, who follows all forms of football, has confirmed that.
What does George say? There's one for high school and there's one for college, and then we got
and then this game. We're maximum hashed here as Lindstrom's punt. We have another flag down. Gideon, who scored a touchdown earlier with the return here.
Yeah, and again, I think one of the areas we talked to Jim Fossil about the areas that he wanted to look at: his backup quarterback, his offensive line, and his special teams. And I think of those three things, the biggest thing he's going to be disappointed in is his special teams.
Poor Bruce Reed will be drawing up 8 kickoff returns for next week. Bruce came over from San Diego.
During the return of the kick, illegal block in the back above the waist, number 46, receiving team. 10-yard penalty, first down.
But a lot of times you don't put your best players on special teams in preseason either, and that's why there's so many big special teams mistakes early in the season.
Two weeks from tonight, we're in Denver as the 49ers take on the Broncos. Preseason football, preseason Monday Night Football. This Thursday on ESPN, it's the Jets against the Pittsburgh Steelers at 8 Eastern time on ESPN. Here, 6:05 to go at the 22-yard line, and the Houston Texans have a 1st and 10 with Sankey, the quarterback. And over the middle, finds his man, puts it into the arms of Adnaf Harris, and let's get an update from Melissa.
Well, actually, Al, I'm joined by the man who brought football back to Houston, Bob McNair. It has been 34 long months, hard months of preparation. What were your feelings during the opening kickoff tonight?
Well, the realization that we finally have a team on the field, and that's what it's all about. The game is wonderful, and it's been a lot of preparation, but we're here to play the game, and that's what I've been waiting for.
The style of ownership has certainly changed throughout the league over the last 10 years, from going from hands-off to more hands-on. What kind of owner will you be?
Well, I've run the organization, but we have wonderful people that work for us. Charlie Casserly, general manager, and then Dom Capers, our head coach, and they have their jobs to do. And my responsibility is to help see that they have the resources to get their job done, and that's what I do.
Well, Bob, thanks so much. Congratulations and good luck this season.
Thank you. We're looking forward to it. Thank you.
Yeah, seems like a very good man as Travis Prentice makes the catch and moves the chains. And as I mentioned before, John, a very key figure in the thoroughbred racing industry for years. He owns a Stoner Side stable, major horse farm in Kentucky.
Well, and he's a competitor, and he wants to win there, and he wants to win here. And the thing that impresses me, as I told you about their facilities when I went down there, is he's given Charlie Casserly and he's given Dom Capers and his staff everything that they wanted, and probably more.
Going deep on 1st and 10 and incomplete. Tony Simmons looked inside and then had to look outside.
And one of the reasons that Bob McNair has to be so happy is that David Carr was the right decision. You get the first pick in the draft, and this is what he did. I mean, he starts off and he throws that interception when Gaffney falls down, and then he keeps coming back. But, I mean, he was throwing with so much confidence, and he played with so much confidence, and he understands now the difference between being open in the pros is a lot different from being open in college. In the pros, it's a step. If you get a step, you're open.
2nd and 10. Prentice for a couple. Great to watch Carr as well tonight. So ebullient. There he was with Jim Kelly before the game. Just a kid having a lot of fun.
No, he has a perennial smile. I mean, it's like a smile, or that look of the smile is either in his mouth or in his eyes. I mean, he's just, as Dom Capers says, he's a gym rat. I mean, he's a guy that just loves to do what he's doing. He'd be fun to work with.
Told me last night he grew up as a Cowboy fan, but he idolized Dan Marino. That pass is incomplete. Intended for John Minardi.
You know, I saw Ernie Accorsi, the general manager of the Giants, at halftime, and I said, "Good going on your first pick." And then that was this guy here. Maybe I was just talking about this play specifically, but I think this guy is what the Giants needed for a long time. Other guy, if you want to play that too deep and stuff, you know the way they do it, those corners and safeties out, and give that middle in there, this guy's going to eat you up.
Texans now to punt on 4th down and 8 from midfield. John Baker, the ex-Ram, bounces that one out of bounds at the 9-yard line, but there's another flag down.
Yeah, I've enjoyed this first game. When I first got here, tonight, you came up and someone came up to you and said, "Okay, I'll go to the horse trailer." I have no idea what the horse trailer was.
We have these little things we talk about.
Receiving team number 62. By rule, this penalty be enforced half the distance of the goal from the spot where the kick ended. First down.
John, truth be told?
Yeah, I want to know what the horse trailer is.
I don't even know what the horse trailer is.
No, but someone said,
they just made it up. I thought they made it up for you.
No, someone said, "Come on, Al, we'll take you. You got to go to the horse trailer." And I thought, do I go? Do I watch? Do I stay? I just stayed where I was.
Was the horse trailer? Freddie Godelli's telling me the horse trailer is John's bus?
No. They took you away from there to go to the horse. You had to do a voiceover in a horse trailer.
You know the problem right now is you put a new team together. You have to learn the terminology.
Is that a thing?
Believe me, before the year is done, we'll learn some new terminology.
Yeah.
The horse trailer is where we have the audio effects and we have the 1st and 10 lines, kind of a utility truck. And
so you had to go to the utility truck.
Actually, it's an off-track betting parlor is what it is.
I had no idea. I mean, it was my first thing. First Monday night game. Get off. Okay, here we go. Ready for some football walkout. Okay, Al, come on. You got to go to the horse trailer.
That's right.
What the heck is that?
That's where you get a bet down at Calder at the horse trailer.
You and Bob McNair were in there.
That's right. That's right. So what's it like under the lights after all these years? You're used to working in the daytime.
No, I enjoy it. It's like I said earlier, when I was a coach, I always enjoyed, coaching on Monday Night Football. My players always enjoyed playing at night, and as a fan, I always enjoyed watching it. And now, this is the start of what it's all about.
We actually had to change some of the rules for you in terms of our information as Jason Garrett comes in at quarterback on 2nd down and 9. And the toss is back to Delvin Joyce. John, before you got here, we used to say you'd have to have coached 15 games on Monday night to be atop that list. So Tom Flores always topped it. But now that you're over here, Steve Hurt made it a minimum of 10. So there you are right on top.
Little did I know. Yeah, I mean, we used to, as I said, we liked to play on Monday night, and I felt my players liked to play, because I really feel that great players like to show off. Sure. And I know that it was, I used to tell them, it's an opportunity to show off. And heck, I had players that were great show-offers
Well, they learned from a pretty good guy right there.
No, I was nuts. I was nuts. You see me jump, you couldn't even get a credit card underneath my height.
I like the way you wore a tie in your first year, and then you went to the golf shirt.
Yeah, that was because Vince Lombardi wore a tie. And those were the days, huh?
You know, your only loss on Monday Night Football was by 1 point to Buffalo.
To Buffalo, yeah. Joe Ferguson up there. We had him too, and they came from behind and beat us.
You talk about guys making their mark on a Monday night, and a lot of players either get to the Pro Bowl or get to several Pro Bowls with good performances. Remember Phil Villapiano's Monday night game?
Yeah. And he had a great Monday night game. And I remember Phil Villapiano on a Monday night game made a heck of a tackle at midfield, and I put in George Blanda and at quarterback, and George comes in and the first play throws a touchdown pass. And I remember I told Chet Forte, I said, okay, I got something special for you. Anytime it was kind of George's last year, and I wanted to get him in at quarterback again. And it was after a great defensive play by Phil Villapiano.
Sure. Yep. Of course, Cosell was there to talk about Phil Villapiano, the up-and-coming star, a guy to keep your eye on in the future.
He was, you know, because we weren't good on defense a year before, so we were going to draft 2 good tacklers, 1 and 2. In that draft, we drafted Jack Tatum #1, Phil Villapiano #2, and we became a good tackling team.
Sherrod Gideon to run this punt back. And believe it or not, we've had a run back without a flag. You can get the latest on Monday Night Football by logging on to ESPN.com, and the keyword is Monday Night Football. And for complete preseason NFL coverage and fantasy football, log on to NFL.com. Well, John, we've worked so hard, they're going to give us next week off.
Yeah, and then we come back in Denver with the 49ers at Denver. That's always a great scene.
Good scene in Denver, pre or regular season.
And then we go to Green Bay.
Right. We'll see the Cleveland Browns there for our final preseason game. As Prentice takes the toss, takes the flip to the outside, and gets out of bounds with a flag thrown at the end of the play at the 27-yard line.
You know, I was watching that game the other night. We're talking about the Washington Redskins and Steve Spurrier just coming in and pitching it around. And I think the way pro football is going today, that you have to just go in and just want to throw it every down. You know, the way Bill Walsh did, I think you have to, you know, that old idea of establishing the run to throw the ball, I think those days are gone. I think now you pass the ball and then
foul,
to establish the run.
Unnecessary roughness, late hit out of bounds, number 47 defense. The penalty be assessed half the distance to the goal. First down.
That I think you have to come out and play, because if a defense doesn't want you to run and they bring that 8th guy up or they stack the, there's no way you can run the ball. So you have to pass them out of that. I mean, I think in the Super Bowl, I mean what the Patriots did to the Rams is they just did the opposite of that. They just played them in dime defense the whole game, and then Rams never ran them out of that, so they just stayed with it.
Sankey to Prentice, and he's taken out of bounds at about the 10-yard line. So do you think it'll ever go back? I mean, things just seem to ebb and flow in football, John. You know, there's a period of time when you have to run, and there's a period of time when you think pass first. Do you think it'll ever go back?
No, I think it's just evolving to just pass all the time. I mean, just watching this game. I mean, these guys come in, you bring your 4th quarterback in, and you're still passing every down in your first preseason game. I think that's what pro football is today.
Sankey throws and then is caught at the 5-yard line. Pulling that one in is Eric Chu out of McNeese State.
Because you look at the job, I mean, that these quarterbacks are doing now. Look at, I mean, Jesse Palmer comes in for the Giants, and he flicks it all day.
Looks pretty good, too. Palmer tonight, 247 yards and 2 touchdowns. They get the play off before the 2-minute warning, and it is intercepted at the goal line. This is Clarence LeBlanc, and LeBlanc with an escort.
And he will take it all the way to the end zone. $99 yards and a half.
And that's one thing you say after you say you check it all the time. You say, why didn't you run it when you got down there?
Right.
I think Sankey he's just watching him all the way. Watch, he's in the shotgun here, and his head turns immediately to his left. You see, and he just watches the receiver all the way. So what does that do? That brings the defender to the inside, and that's exactly what happened. The block was right there. He was reading the safety. The free guy will read the eyes of the quarterback, and he read his eyes all the way.
Pochman for the extra point. Make it Matt Bryant, not Pochman. So Sankey throws the pick, and that's going to wrap it up for the Giants, who turn it into a 17-point lead with 1:43 left. On Wednesdays this fall, two doctors who operate by their own rules taking on a medical system that's completely sick. It's MD's new this fall. Wednesday nights right here on ABC. We showed you the AFC realignment. Now in the NFC you have Dallas, the Giants, Philly, and Washington. Arizona is now gone from that division. And in the North, pretty much like the old Central, Chicago, Detroit, Green Bay, Minnesota. They're minus Tampa Bay because Tampa Bay has moved to the South. And we'll check that out in just a moment, the South and the West, to bring you up to date on this symmetrical NFL.
No, I was going to say you can do that because there's no ball. Kicker doesn't have a ball yet.
It's sort of imperative, isn't it?
Yeah. Where's the ball, y'all?
Atlanta, Carolina, New Orleans, and the Bucs now in the NFC South. And in the West, you have the lineup of Arizona going there from the East, the Rams and 49ers still in it, and Seattle comes over from the AFC West to the NFC West. So that would be the biggest change of all.
I'm watching you over here. Perfect.
Sherrod Gideon from the 2 back up to the 20. And let's find out what we know about Le'Amon Evans now. Back to Melissa.
Well, Al, official word from the team, he continues to show progress. His MRI and his CAT scan were normal. And now he is regaining feeling in his left foot. So he has feeling in his upper body, his right leg, and now his left foot. So it's a good sign. It continues to show progress. And what they're thinking is that it's a spinal cord contusion.
Well, certainly a lot better than it started out with the initial reports. With he was conscious but had no feelings in his arms or his legs. And now as the evening has progressed, it gets better and better.
The shotgun, 4 wide receivers.
Sankey over the middle, and that's caught. This is Tony Simmons, ex-Patriot. Well, I'm the ex-Patriot. I don't want you to think he's an ex-Patriot. It's a whole other thing. The former Patriot for a gain of 12. We checking his passport.
See, these are things they're doing here. 4 wide receivers, no huddle, and these are good experiences to have in a preseason.
Against the grain, little wobbly pass that goes in and out of the hands of Atnath Harris, rookie from Cal State Northridge.
You know, when you get into these fourth quarters, you always have to think, oh, the game doesn't mean anything, the fans leave. But if you're one of those guys down there playing, or if you're the family of one of those guys down there playing, this is big, big time, because this is where you have a chance to make the team or get cut. And a lot of these guys that are playing now are really in that area that they probably aren't going to be around here very long.
One last chance to shine, to do something to get the coach's attention. And Sankey's pass is hauled in across the 50 at the 49 by John Minardi.
You know, I was talking to Jim Fossil, yesterday about what his team would look like, and here's how he breaks it down. You can add these up if it has the 53. I think it's short. 9 offensive linemen, 3 tight ends, 5 wide receivers, 6 running backs, including 1 fullback, 3 quarterbacks, 8 defensive linemen, 7 linebackers, and 8 defensive backs. So if you're wondering who's going to make the team or how many, that's kind of where you start.
Yeah. I was doing that on the fly. That's 49. Then you've got a punter.
2 specialists, yeah.
And a kicker. We're going to go back down to the horse trailer and figure this out later. Meanwhile, let's go to Melissa.
All right, Al, an injury update on Texans wide receiver Trevor Inslee. He has a broken left ankle. He's at the hospital right now. They're putting a splint on it, but they expect him to be able to travel home with the team tonight.
Okay, thank you, Melissa. The Texans will be flying home after the game, and they'll be playing in New Orleans next Saturday night in their second preseason game.
Yeah, so I think that came up to 51. Is that what you counted?
Well, 51, then you might have a long snapper, so that's 52.
Well, I think that's going to be Littleton, and I think he was included in the linebackers. He'll probably be the 7th linebacker.
Well, maybe because of salary cap restraints, they'll only have 51.
Well, yeah, I'm not blaming my math. I'm blaming Jim Fossil's math. That's what he said because I wrote it down.
There is Littleton.
Yeah, right there, and he's a real good long snapper. You know, if you have a kid and you want him to be a football player and you want him to be able to make the high school team, make the college team, and maybe even make a pro team, teach him to be the long snapper. You always, if you're a coach, you always need a long snapper. And if you are a good long snapper, I'll guarantee you'll always have a job.
Yep.
Look at Dale Hellestray. He may still be playing somewhere.
He was last year. And that's picked off, and that's going to end the game. Clarence LeBlanc, who ran it back 99 yards, picks this one off. And the game is over. Great to have the gang back with Fred Godelli and Drew Esikoff, our producer and director. Malibu Kelly Hayes, Steve Hurt, the whole gang back. And we're back for Monday night to wrap it up after this. 34-17 Giants. Giants win it 34-17, but we saw David Carr tonight. Liked him. Saw Jeremy Shockey tonight. Loved him. He was great, and he's with Melissa.
All right, Al, actually, I'm joined by both Jeremy Shockey and David Carr, the #1 picks from both teams. Jeremy, we'll start with you. 4 receptions, 80 yards, and a touchdown. What do you think of your first NFL action?
It was definitely, I definitely came out here to play, and, I felt that, just try not to make very many mental errors and stuff like that. Just come out here and just compete, and I think it went pretty good.
Tell me about that 48-yard reception to set up your touchdown.
It's basically, I shook Dixon's hand the whole time because he set up a great block for me. And if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have had anything. So all week our coach has been preaching about, making the little things and doing the little things right. And, it paid off that play.
Congratulations to you. Thanks. All right, David. Again, 96 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. How much confidence did you gain tonight?
I think the whole team gained some confidence, because we hadn't taken a snap before in live competition, with the QB live and all that. So it was nice to get out here and move the chains. That was our goal last night, and I'm just glad we got to come out here and do that today.
What do you personally need to work on between now and week 1 against Dallas?
There's a lot of things. There's some looks out there that I need to get some film work on and definitely study some more and just try and improve day by day. And that's all you can do. And this was a big step. This was big.
Thanks very much, David.
No problem.
Okay, thank you, Melissa. The final score tonight at Fawcett Stadium in Canton, Ohio was the New York Giants 34 and the Houston Texans 17. John, great working with you. We made it through the night without saying Houston Oilers. Can you believe that?
Yeah, that was pretty good. There were probably some other things on those, but we didn't do that.
2 weeks, we'll be in Denver. The Broncos host the 49ers, and you can stay tuned now for your late local news. For those of you on the West Coast, the James Bond Picture Show on Her Majesty's Secret Service. ABC Sports is online at ESPN.com. Keyword ABC Sports. Al Michaels, John Madden, Melissa Stark. Good night from Canton, Ohio.
ABC Sports thanks you for watching this presentation of the National Football League.